I've added in audio capture for Discord now, but I don't think it was on earlier, which would be very par for the course with my streaming so far. I don't know if you mean in the chat or not, Deslin, but I'll say hello, Deslin, in both. Okay, I think we're basically set up. Smooth as ever.
That's great.
Yeah, I can hear you, Michael.
Oh, okay, cool. So
And now myself.
yeah, yeah. Just in case I messed up the mic earlier. Angus can't be with us, so we're not doing a full normal game. Instead, we're going to have a nice chat about D&D and other fun, interesting things that take our interests interestingly. So, who wants to
Nice and stuff.
start with something that people will find interesting about D&D? Deslin, what got you into D&D?
Well, I had a couple of I have all the generic answers of I've always loved storytelling and basically just creating stuff with other people, and the whole like creating a story but built on improv and random dice rolls. It's quite a cool concept. So yeah. I initially had some buddies who wanted to play Pathfinder of our games. So we played a couple in-person games of that. It was really fun. Now, despite only playing like 5 sessions or so of Pathfinder, I think in Pathfinder terms and not D&D terms, which I play 99% of the time. So that can
Right.
be a little annoying, but there's a lot of overlap.
So, Pathfinder is what, a variant of D&D?
Well, the
It's
brief,
like a off branch almost, right?
yeah, the brief history of it is that there's a bunch of different versions of D&D throughout the years, like upgrading a piece of software.
Yeah.
I think it was either the
3.5.
4.5 or the 3.5. Yeah,
3.5, I think it was, yeah.
version was like really crunchy and like you could do a lot of cool stuff with it, but it like took a lot of time and all that. So D&D went in a more like mainstream media sort of direction, until we eventually got like 5e and whatnot. Was kind of faster, it was more simple and all that. Some people really like the crunchy stuff though, and then those people started a company named Paizo, and then they created Pathfinder to get that old like 3.5 feel,
Oh,
and
cool.
now it's kind of its own thing.
Oh,
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I heard first Pathfinder is very close to 3.5, I think, but they released edition 2, right? And that is
Yeah.
like
They say
it's sort of
recently, it's
like
probably like 2 years ago.
yeah, it was like, yeah, well, it's recent, it's somewhat recent. Yeah, it's still relevant. Yeah.
It's
I've still not tried Pathfinder though.
it can be
Never tried it.
pretty fun. There's a lot of really cool classes in there.
Yeah.
And yeah, you could tell some really good stories if you like stick to the dice, because since different things can happen with like tiny minute little rules. You can get some like more unique stories than you can in D&D. D&D is kind of more improv based. You could play Pathfinder like
Yeah. 5e is Is there like so like for example perception is not divided into like sight, hearing, etc. A smell or something. Was that a thing, or was that like another thing?
I think that might be another thing. I'm not familiar with that part of it at least.
Maybe. I've heard something about it. Maybe it was like 3.5 or something older. I don't know.
Yeah,
I assumed it was Pathfinder just because I don't know.
I'm sure there are certain things like that in there. Most of my experience with Pathfinder now is based off of a group on the East Coast called the Glass Cannon Podcast. Or it's more of a company now. They have like 15, 20 different podcasts, all with like actors and all that stuff.
Mm.
They still have like an indie feel though, because by actors I mean like there's some like there's a screenplay artist, there's a some people who do like not quite Broadway, but live action stuff.
Hmm.
Um,
Mm.
so yeah, it's just a bunch of like theater
Yeah.
kids over there doing it, and it's
It's a
pretty fun.
little bit of a critical role then in a way, I guess, because they're
Yeah,
all like voice actors, right? So they're more like Broadway, whatever
yeah. But
sort of
Critical is like the
talent.
A list of voice actors, and these people are like
Yeah,
they're
yeah,
extremely talented and all very funny, and I love them to bits. But like, I would never have heard of them on the West Coast here if it wasn't for this
yeah.
nerdy podcast. I can
Hmm.
highly give it a recommendation. You don't have to
What's
know
it called again?
Pathfinder.
It's Glass Cannon.
Like yes, the Glass Cannon podcast.
Like a little
Glass Cannon.
fragile mage.
hmm Well, I think the
That's
the
good.
network now is literally just a Glass Cannon network instead of podcast. But the Glass Cannon podcast was the flagship thing, the thing that got them
Mhm.
started, and branched off of everything else.
Oh, okay. I've
Hmm.
never heard of it. To be
Yeah.
honest.
Sounds good.
It'd be really good. If you want to go on like jogs or runs or something, just throw on the Glass Cannon and
Yeah.
fall into it. They've recently been doing a thing called Delta Green. Well, technically the show they run is Get in the Trunk. Because of a joke. One character
Right.
basically had to tell another one to get in the trunk, so they just like they opened it, get in the trunk, threw him in, and they left. But yeah, there's a game out there called Delta Green, which is all based in like basically like the X Files, the TTPRG.
Wait, there's an
Um,
X-Files role-playing game?
yes, it's called Delta Green.
Oh, okay, right.
Well,
Go
It's
on.
all really it's it's fascinating. I haven't got a chance to play yet, but from listening to these podcasts, um, you basically play from an agency or the project or whatever they're calling. There's a whole like lore in the Delta Green universe of like they changed in the 80s or something due to governmental flashback or something. But um, yeah, you basically play like secret agents uh, that are basically like sleeper agents. Like you have your day job, be it like a doctor or like a gas station attendant. But when something crazy happens, you're called upon to like sort it out, or you're like flown in or something like that. But
hmm.
if there's like a fucking zombie running around or Cthulhu's trying to break into the universe, it's your job to kind of deal with the problem and keep it away from the general public.
There's a big
So
gap
That's
between
cool.
a zombie
That
running
sounds
around
really
and
interesting.
Cthulhu breaking into the universe.
I wanted to
Those
give
are
you
the
the
only
best
two
Yeah, it
of
gives you
options.
an
it.
idea, doesn't it? Yeah, you've
Yeah,
drawn
that's
the
good.
picture quite wide.
Yeah, well, I
Very
mean,
wide.
it's dealing with the supernatural. It's a quite wide picture to begin with.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. Yes, I knew that they made
Touche, yeah.
they had a Dune role-playing game that I kept wanting to try, but it seemed very complicated.
Oh yeah.
An X-Files one though sounds pretty good. X-Files themed.
Hell yeah.
I always wanted to try different role-playing like systems, to be honest.
We should try
Yeah, I
Vampire
only
the
ever.
Masquerade at some point as well.
Oh yeah.
Sure,
Yeah,
I've
I
heard
heard
of
about
that.
that. Yeah, that was a video game as well, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, they did have
I
video
think
games.
it's a game, yeah.
That's probably
Yeah.
where I've heard of it.
It's all based off
Yeah,
of the
probably.
World of Darkness IP.
I've definitely heard of that.
Darkness.
I
Mm.
think the guys who did you guys aren't into 40K, so you probably don't know, but there's a web series called If the Emperor Had a Texas Speech Device. It's very silly. And I think they basically partnered up with the World of Darkness guys who like, create the role playing game to make their own like, animated web series. That's very good. So I can recommend that as well. So since we're doing recommendations.
Okay.
Mm.
Right. So, Carl, why did you
Mm.
decide to play fantasy make believe with strangers on the internet?
Make a believe.
Mm-hmm.
Let me remember this. Oh god.
Because you've been playing for quite a while, haven't you?
Right. Yeah. So basically, I was in uni, and we went to Forbidden Planet. It's a like sort of board game shop, like a nerd shop, right?
Used to
So we
be.
went to Forbidden Planet, and we were looking at board games because I was like, oh, I always used to like board games, but it was, it's been a while. And I never really knew what D&D was. Like I knew of it. I knew it was a game that people played, and it was like known, but I had no idea what. Like I thought it was a board game, right? Like not like not pen and paper. I thought it was like literally a physical board game or something.
Mhm.
Like, so I came across it in Forbidden Planet. It was a starter kit. And it was like £30-40 or something. I just seen it. I was like, screw it, I'll just get it and see. And then we sat down, me and two of my friends, and we just opened up the box, and we're just like, what? Like, where's the board? What's going on? Like, what is this? So like, I
What's in your
tried.
mind, man?
Yeah. So I remember we sat there looking at like YouTube videos. How do you play D&D? And it was like trying to explain it to us, and we were like, this is beyond me. Yes, but I was quite determined. So I was sort of looking through it and stuff, and then at home I was watching videos. I was trying to like figure it out that night and stuff, and I was kind of getting somewhere, but I didn't know where to begin. Right, like I didn't know how to like what to do to start it. But then I remember Matthew, the old DM in this group,
Mm.
basically on Facebook, he was making little figurines, and he said, "Oh, just making some figurines with for D&D." And I was like, someone plays D&D. So I just messaged, oh, he played D&D. I was wanted to play D&D, and then I ended up joining. I played with his mum,
His
and he was
mum.
the DM. Yeah, and then online, and I thought it was really cool. And then I managed to convince him to DM for me and two of my friends. I had my laptop set up, and then we were sort of playing, the three of us. And but the thing is, he didn't do Dungeons and Dragons. He did Dungeon World, which was like a simplified version. So like really simple sort of D&D type thing, proper just like imagination thing,
Mhm.
and that was fun. And then I actually tried to run it after like I tried to actually run a game, basically tried to run the little adventure. And I did a session. It went a bit terribly, like
Yeah, of course it did, though.
you know
That's
how you
normal.
That's the whole
you know how
point.
you're supposed to you're supposed to roll for intimidation, right, and things like that. And I was the DM. They were
You
trying
were
to
physically
intimidate me.
intimidated.
I was physically intimidated. I was like, I don't know, just okay, just have the gold, have the gold.
Sure, take all my money, please.
I was like, I should have gone right, roll from intimidation, but I was like, oh god, yeah, sure, have the gold. I have like 100 gold, yeah, sure. And then
I mean, I
afterwards, I
still do
realized, oh
that.
yeah, I should have made them roll. Yeah.
I think it would become obvious at this point that I will never fully grasp how you're actually meant to play D&D, because my experience is through originally Angus DMing, and
Yeah.
Angus, as much as we love him to bits, he's very much a rule of cool kind of guy. So
Yeah.
it's not necessarily the best person to learn the written rules from.
Mechanics. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I kind of just adapted how Angus
Mm,
DM'd.
mm.
So that's why I still constantly have to ask you guys. So what's the difference between perception and investigation and all the others? But it tends to work out.
That's the
Yeah.
one,
I think.
yeah.
This will be said 1,000 times everywhere on the internet, but like the correct way to play D&D is the way you have the most fun with. Now,
The way you're playing it.
yeah.
Yeah, the
Hell
important thing
yeah.
is that you're playing it.
If you're enjoying it, it's that way.
And there's like 1,500 different ways to play it the right way. I've been playing in a long-term game on Saturday for like longer than a lot of my relationships. But at that game, I love the DM to bits. He is super like he must have like a lore Bible or have it in his head at least. Like a lot of things connect. It's like a big like Saturday cartoon sort of like epic basically. And you get to just inhabit the characters, and occasionally we don't go all that far because we get bogged down in wars or something, but like it's great.
Mm.
Um and it's like yeah, it's large and epic and all that stuff. Um but on the same token, I've played in other games, and this is kind of how I DM as well. It leans far more on the improv. Like I have bullet points of like stuff I want to introduce, or like if I need the characters to know something for a puzzle later, I'll introduce that. But half the time in my notes, I just have like a dash and then the word jazz, which to me means improvise something.
Oh, okay.
And those sections can last like 40 minutes or an hour or something of just like bullshitting with my players.
Yeah,
This is some of my favorite parts.
yeah. Honestly, yeah. The way like I remember in the start, I always thought, oh, you got to prep and stuff, and I tried to do it. I always got burned out so quickly, and then I still kind of do when I DM, but the way I've managed to like stick with it for the longest is when I just my notes just like 2 bullet points, and then I just run with it, just out of my mind, like just improv it. It's the way I
Yeah.
enjoy it the most. Like it's not the
Mm.
most organized way, and it's maybe maybe some people have it a lot more fleshed out and more detail and everything, but like it's just it's the funnest way for me. So
Yeah.
I'd like to think it translates to the players. If I'm enjoying it, then hopefully it translates. But
Absolutely.
you know,
What was that robot movie where people like mind meld? Pacific Rim. You can like
Oh, right.
jerk
I
oh,
thought you
I've
meant
not
like
seen that.
Vulcans from Star Trek, but robots. I thought, what the hell is that?
Well, in that
Listen.
movie, there's a thing called like drift compatibility or something, which basically just
Mm.
means like you're really vibing with the person. And I feel like that can happen so much more when you're just like improvising for extended periods of time with somebody, and it's that like beautiful social angle which makes me love D&D so much. Even the more like stricter kind of epic storybook type of D&D.
Mm.
But it's the getting together and like telling the story together that is really fascinating to me. And that's
Yeah,
that's the that's
that's
the
the
part of
big appeal.
D&D that gives me life.
Yeah,
Yeah, so
I
remember,
always enjoy the world build.
sorry,
Yeah,
the
no,
world
I
building
just
music.
enjoy the world building a lot. Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah,
Also,
that's a really good part.
one thing that got me with D&D, I think, with DMing, and like obviously I don't DM that much. I just found it that I just get burnt out too quickly. But one thing that got me is when I was like 5, 6, up to like probably like 10, 11 or something. I was a kid that you give him a notebook, preferably even like a grid notebook. I will draw maps for hours, just like
Mm.
cities and countries and roads and rivers and everything. And it was just like I probably drew hundreds back then, but like it was never of use anything. It was just little maps for me to look at. But then I discovered D&D, and I was like, why did I know this when I was younger, right? Like, like I could have used everything. So yeah, so that's when I was like, oh my god, you can use maps and play on them, like in the world. You can do something with it. It blew my mind.
Yeah, I always really like the world building aspect. I think that's
Yeah.
the most fun part of it. One of the things that I've always been conscious of with the campaign we're currently playing with you guys is that I don't want to be one of those people who what's his name? There's a YouTuber who does D&D stuff. His name's Jacob. He's American, rather large, has a meme about fireballs.
You have
But
not
quite-
narrowed it down in the slightest. Dylan.
Yeah, that's most of the community, I think. But he has a whole thing around how he thinks one of the annoying types of DMs is people who should just write a book instead of
Right.
playing a campaign.
Right.
So I think the notion is that they become too overly invested in the background story and the world building rather than actually making it fun for the players.
Yeah.
So that's one thing that I've struggled with a little bit because I am using the campaign to kind of develop my own creative, story stuff. So you also have a group that you play with, that you DM for, Carl, on a regular basis.
No, I don't DM from no. I did at the very start, and I know it's just as a player.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
And Deslin, do you play in any of the groups?
So my full D&D schedule week to week now is this game where I'm a player, the
Mhm.
Saturday game where I'm a player, and then I DM on Wednesday ? I should probably know that as a DM.
They're all just waiting for you there now.
Yeah. But yeah, that's my full schedule.
That's
So,
pretty intense.
yeah. Well,
I fight two a lot.
yeah.
One
Well, most of the time, one game or basically my only reliable game is the one I play. Is the one I DM.
right. Okay.
This one's
Yeah,
been pretty good, and Saturday is kind of like hit or miss lately because it's the
Mhm.
holidays and we're all around the goddamn globe.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So,
But yeah.
how did you find those groups? As in, like, how did you come to know them?
Well, my Saturday game is probably the most interesting one because I joined on a whim when I had some extra time, and I can't remember if it was the Saturday game or what I want to call the Thursday game, but the one I joined call in. But I basically had some extra time during the week that I was bored, so I went and tried to find the game because working retail, especially overnights as I was at the time, you have like so many hours just to listen to podcasts. So I listened to I don't know 100 different shows over the years, which is hyperbolic definitely, but quite a few. So I wanted to find the game, so I just hopped in. I found this one that looked like the DM was going to basically not flake out in a month. You know how you get those certain vibes from people. And this guy had a gimmick of basically like if you want to like join the game, like fill out the like the any character ideas, like the background, stuff like that, like what do you want to do basically. But somewhere in that little application, for lack of a better word, you got to include the word wraith, like the ghost.
Yeah.
Um,
To prove that you read the whole post.
exactly. So like if you put the word in, we could tell you didn't just click through everything, actually paying attention. So that really got me, and I included the word like 3 different times because I was having fun with it.
That's a clever idea.
Yeah. So I eventually got in, and then over the course of like 6 months, okay, so the first session, it was me and like 4 other people, and then the next session after that, this other guy joined named Eric. Um, and then over the course of 6 months, everyone but Eric and I had basically left for one reason or another. But since then, we've been going strong, and we've gotten new people. People I would like absolutely invite to my wedding or take a bullet for. I love them to bits.
No offense, Michael and Colin, but fine.
No. I mean, definitely call at this point. We've been fucking homies for quite a while.
Right, I was
Yeah.
going to
But-
offer to officiate it for you, but no, you can. Fine, whatever.
um,
Hey, we were thinking of a American trip, road trips at one point.
mhm.
We were
Which you're
talking
still gonna
about
do
that,
at some
weren't we?
point. And now you
Yeah,
can paint my
something.
car, so fantastic.
Yes.
Might be a little self-indulgent, but yeah, we'll get you flown
Paint
over here
scheme
to
for
paint
each
my
state
car.
that you go through.
Oh god,
Yeah.
that would be an ugly
Paint
ass
the
car.
car and
Not all at the same
I'm away
time.
and raise money.
Yeah, it's like every foot of the car is a different state.
It's like those NASCAR cars where it's got a billion different logos on it.
mhm.
That's Carl's.
NASCARs. That's what you should call the place.
Oh my god.
For anyone who's actually listening, Carl is currently learning how to paint cars.
Yeah. It's
Which I'm
very
sure is
good
more
thing.
interesting and complicated than I make it sound.
Yeah.
I hope
No, I
it's
mean, to
fucking
be fair,
complicated. It's like
I'm
$1,000
not even-
over here.
It's got the emulsion out.
I'm not even learning how to paint the cars. I'm just
Yeah.
learning about car paint. Because painting cars is like apparently it's even harder than just learning car paint stuff. So like I'm just learning how to, tell people what they need rather than actually do it,
Mm.
Like
Oh, okay.
kind of thing.
I've just got
You
this
can reach
picture of
that
you.
level of annoying. Like, well, this is what you need to
Yeah.
do. Okay, do it for me. I can't, but this is what you need to do.
Yeah.
Um,
What do I need? This, and a bit of this.
like,
"Oh,
and
can
the
you
fellow
do
who knows
that
what
for
to
me?"
do.
No, you do that. You do that. I'm not.
It's like, oh, I'm busy. Also, I don't want to. Bye.
Yeah. Also, I don't want to.
I'll be real honest, Michael. I don't remember what the original question was, but if I could pivot to a different part of D&D, the connections that can come out of a D&D group is like
Yeah.
they're pretty top tier. Like this Saturday game talking about. Eric eventually brought in his girlfriend, a lady named Moe. And she does a lot of streaming now. But when she was just starting out, she basically asked our group to like come in and say hi and bring anybody, like, please. um, so I tried my best to help out our homie, and
Yeah.
now, like, I think she's been doing about a year and a half, 2 years. I have all the I've been introduced to these like 3 other like subgroups, like friend circles. A lot of those people I also love quite a lot. So it's just if you could trace it back to like just being bored on like a Wednesday, and then
Yeah.
now all like 24 different
Yeah.
people.
Yeah.
Just,
You know what I'd
yeah.
compare it to? I'd compare it to when when you're studying with the same people, like in the same class, or working with
Mhm.
people, things like that. It's sort of like that same group, and you're doing something with that same group every time, and you don't even realizing before you like just bonded like randomly without even trying, right? Like it's not like
Yeah.
you're meeting these people to just meet. You're just doing something with them, right? It's an activity, and it's just you just end up bonding with people just out of nowhere, and before you know it, you've got like best friends out of it. So
Hell yeah.
Yeah, the social aspect is definitely a huge element. Because I think was it during lockdown that I started playing with you guys in the UK?
something like
is,
that, yeah. I think it's something
20.
like that.
How long has it been now? 3 years?
Which
2
lockdown?
years.
It was either 2019 summer or 2020 summer, but I think it was 2020 because I believe we had a different. We had a Ben before the Ben that used to be with us now.
Oh yeah.
There is only one.
Yeah, and that Ben left us.
Ah.
That prick.
Yeah, he just ghosted us.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's not right.
To be fair, I
Wow.
think my memory
Yeah, it
ghosted
was-
him as well because I remember now that his name was Ben. I don't remember anything else about him,
Yeah,
like who he
yeah.
played or anything.
Yeah.
I was trying to find the advert that I responded to.
Sorcerer in a previous campaign. In
Is that the
not
guy who worked in
Horizon
the candy
campaign,
shop? No.
What?
but I don't know.
Candy shop.
Somebody went and like worked at a candy shop, and I always thought that was a very whimsical like
Is this in real
gig
life
to
or in
have
the game?
in real life.
Oh, okay, yeah,
somebody
that is pretty
left.
whimsical.
Yeah.
Take
Oh, I
it
might
to
be
the
thinking of
candy
another.
shop.
Yeah, I don't know, but some motherfucker went to look at like legit like a chocolate candy shop in like London or something, and I'm like, hell yeah, that sounds awesome. I haven't spoken to that guy in like like 2 or 3
Yeah.
years.
Think of all the free samples that you've missed out on.
Yeah, it's fine.
But
I'm sure he's
got
lovely,
invited
but
to
he
your
also
wedding
seemed like
though,
a
weren't
bit
he,
of
Deslin?
no.
Yeah.
I don't think either of us will invite the other one to his wedding. Mostly because we don't chat.
You just
Also,
have a
I don't
vague
even
idea.
remember
He
his
works
name.
somewhere
so-
in a candy shop, somewhere possibly in London.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that also might have just been like a side gig. So, like, who knows?
Might not
He's a
even be
euphemism
London.
for something. He was actually just a high-profile drug dealer.
I wish. I would become friends with the high profile drug dealers so quickly if they gave me money.
Oh, money. Okay, right. I thought you were going somewhere
Yeah.
else.
Yeah.
Like, I don't
They
care
probably
about the
have money,
product
right?
at all. I'd be a great
Yeah.
transporter because I won't sample. I'm fairly straight edge in that sense. I just want money.
Yes. Yeah.
I like that we can just get Deslin to just admit to federal crimes on the street.
No, I mean, that's how you know I'm not doing it because at this point
Ah.
I've gone on
With
public
someone
record.
who's doing criminal activity be
Yeah,
so
that's right. Yeah.
open about it? Of course.
Yeah. Like only an idiot would actually
FBI.
do it now.
It
Joke's
could
on
be
you.
a
I am.
reverse psychology thing, you know. It could be like, oh, I'm talking about it on stream, so I'm obviously innocent,
Hmm.
Nudge,
you
nudge,
know.
wink, wink.
Like,
It's not.
Yeah, so it looks like I started
no, it's
playing.
not.
I started playing Felric in the summer of 2020, but I'd been playing Ram for quite a while before then. So I think it must have been late 2019 that I joined.
Okay.
Um,
Well, I'm gonna
It was
jump
around
in
that
with
time, yeah.
I'm gonna jump in with another topic, and hopefully we remember this
We
conversation
will.
because it's quite good. But what are some like standout like memories or character moments from your different characters over the
Ooh.
years? I think I will
Every
always
custard.
remember your sociopath comment on
Oh,
Felric.
Felric.
Yeah,
Yeah, that was. It's a shame we didn't record them back then.
Mm.
So
Well,
for context, Iskandar Felric was the gnome wizard that I played after I realized I have no idea how to play a sorcerer.
So he went to an arguably more complicated class.
But it was more point and click, so it suited me better.
Okay.
And part of his backstory was that he had some father issues. And what was it? He was
You were
I-
writing
he-
someone, like a
Someone-
party
I think-
member or something.
yeah, was it Toff? Was
Yes,
invisible.
that sounds right.
And there's like this massive siege that we spent like 3 sessions just planning how we were going to do this siege.
Yeah.
And then I don't think we followed the plan at all.
Yeah.
No,
I knew he wouldn't. I was definitely getting a little testy. Like, let's just move on.
it helped,
like-
it helped us to start, but it didn't really
Yeah,
help us in the mid or the end part.
it went downhill a little bit. And the kind of zenith was this little purple hatted gnome wizard seemingly floating 6 foot off the ground, firing magic missiles out of his hands, shouting, "Who's the sociopath now, Dad?"
Just that, like a random soldier who's really confused.
Just some poor guy who has no idea what's going on. I think it was like a vineyard, wasn't it? That we were
Yeah.
in.
Yeah. Yeah. Vineyard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I quite liked that.
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
great.
Good times.
What about you, Carl?
Well, the first thing that came to my head was the campaign before. Michael wasn't in that one. It was the one before Angus's Horizon campaign. It was when wait, who was there a fourth player? I don't remember.
Was this the hunt for
but I
Skittleback or whatever? Is that Welsh word was?
I remember when we were trying to scale the wall. And
Oh,
it was
yeah.
like a whole thing. I was flying with whoever on my shoulder as a squirrel. Or
Max,
squirrel or
yes.
something.
I still play that character
Max.
to this day.
Yes. Yeah, that's right. And then I think Vrak Angus, he was like going by the rope, I think. And then he was oh, that's right. We put the rope around the guy's neck, and then I think Vrak was climbing on the rope, like choking the guy on the wall.
Yeah, like a
While we were
250
holding the
pound
guy.
barbarian or whatever.
Oh, it was crazy. And then it ended with everyone jumping off the wall into sort of hay or something like that. And
Mhm.
then obviously my character Elian, being the clumsy wizard, just sort of jumping and then just him being clumsy, just falling over, and then I think someone else taking some of the damage to try and catch me. Like
Mhm.
it was yeah. I remember I drew a little comic of that, didn't I, back then? It
Yeah,
was fun. Yeah.
man, Alien will always have a soft spot in my heart. He, much like you in my mind's eye, despite now looking at the camera, will always be Charlie Day to me. Because he had Discord profile.
Oh, was this?
So yeah, you and Alien both will always just be that one picture of Charlie Day. He's running around falling off of roofs as he do.
Yeah.
I
Wait,
found
what is this that you're streaming?
a meme
Pew
or
pew.
whatever
Yes,
it is, but
yes. I remember the
from one of the sessions. I think it was when we like came across a military
a
fort.
checkpoint. Checkpoint.
Yeah.
On the road to the
Oh,
siege.
Clam.
And but I don't know what's going. So the wheelchair was when Ben was building a fence. In real life, he was building a fence, and then he said,
Oh,
came
right.
on the chat or something and said, "Oh, there was a kid in a wheelchair in my
Looking at
garden."
him. Just slowly build a fence in front of this kid.
Yeah, so tough. Ben
He was
was
just-
collecting blood
Yeah.
from your
Yeah,
fence, so he was killing
I
everyone.
really wanted to summon a demon, and I was just like, Angus, can I collect some blood from this thing? I don't know who was tied up.
I don't remember that. We were interrogating a guy tied up to a tree.
Right.
And then I remember my character, like he was feeling a little bit like guilty about leaving him tied up to the tree. But I think we did anyway. But I think did we leave him something? I don't remember. Or we? I
Weren't
don't
we
know.
escorting someone as well? Like a young noble.
Oh yes, yeah. The son of the Lord. Well, technically the Lord, right? Like because
Yes,
his
yeah,
dad
because his
died or
dad died.
something,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, that's right. So
And
we
then
escorting him to safety. To a siege.
Oh, man.
To safety.
the tough
Dodgy.
behind the carts, just jumping up, casting out his mark, going back down straight away. Similar times, and I'm guessing this is the magic weapon thing where
Spiritual weapon.
trying to figure out where it is and how it moves
And how it works exactly. We definitely cheated the rules a couple of times. They were like,
yeah.
they can provoke opportunity attacks. Like, no, they can't. You can arguably cause one if they, or give you advantage, maybe. I don't know, but even that I don't think is in the rules. Yeah.
Deslin, what's your favorite for your characters?
Well, I have this standout moment. I don't know if it's my favorite or not because there's been a shit ton of them. because D&D is awesome, and you get the bullshit with friends.
Mm.
But and this is why I love rule bending by the DMs, because they can cause all types of crazy shit to happen. But basically, my character and a party were on a ship, basically sailing south because of this other party member who basically had to go for like a couple of months. IOL. So the character got kidnapped, and we were basically sailing after them. Uh, but we were attacked by a megalodon on the open sea, and we were just having a hell of a hard time fighting it because it was underwater and it would just like harass our ship, and it was gonna sink it if we didn't do anything. So from the crow's nest, my character leapt off, basically, you know, belly flopped onto the megalodon when it reared its bitey maw, and cast water walk on it, which by the rules of the game is a self-only thing, but my DM allowed it to basically make a save and then be affected by the spell, which basically caused the megalodon to be beached on the top of the water, which
Sliding
made it
around.
yeah, which made it so much easier for a gunslinger and rogue to take care of it. So yeah, it's just the thought of like leaping from this mast and onto a gigantic shark and then forcing it above water. Um, yeah, it was a pretty dope moment, and a great reason to bend the rules every now and then.
Mm.
Oh, I have a much. If you want me to go again, I have a much
Yeah, go for it.
more recent
Oh.
example. Still on the bend the rule kind of train of thought, but one of my players who's extremely new to the game, for some reason she wanted to play a druid, um, even though it's like her first time ever playing D&D. So she doesn't quite know how all the spells or even like the base economy works, but she's getting much better. But she in this big combat, she basically tried to cast detect thoughts on a creature.
Mhm.
This specific creature though was like a foot soldier for like a hive mind for an old god. Um, so I basically pivoted it and be like, yes, now you're connected to the hive mind and this old god. And that is basically now spawning this character's inevitable like collision with this old god. Just because the player didn't quite know what the spell did or how to use it mid combat while everyone was dying. Um, but yeah, so there's little moments like that that can lead into so many good things.
Yeah.
I think my favorite was um two. One from when I was still playing Felric, and you guys, I still insist, abandoned me to the bunch of what were they? Just hags? A
Hags, yes,
specific
but
kind
you
of
are a
hag.
wizard,
What
motherfucker.
They
one
were
was this? Oh, in
they're like tower.
um,
And we went into
yeah,
the
the
basement.
witch place thing,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah,
Like where the hag was on the underground.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, the town.
I'm like, oh,
You
this shouldn't
sound
be
fucking
too
smashed,
difficult.
Carl. But yes,
He's
everything
reliving
you
the
said was
trauma.
Yeah,
correct.
I'm trying to remember it.
Um,
Bleak Pass, outside of Bleak Pass, I think it was.
yeah,
Bleak Pass was a town. I think that was it, right?
and
Pass something. It was Pass, definitely.
and just
Is
trying
it Pass?
to. I think it was the first time that I'd experienced not panic, obviously, because it's a game, but a sense of, oh crap, how do I get out of this situation using my characters? Like feeling really constrained by the character, because being a little wizard is like, well, if I go that way, I'm gonna die. If I go that way, I'm gonna die.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
if I go that way, I'm probably gonna die. So let's just go that way. So I actually really enjoyed the difficulty of that. It made it feel a lot more strategic than D&D sometimes is, especially I think our campaigns, because we tend to focus on the having fun element.
Yeah. Because
quite a bit.
certain DMs will kind of make it so that obviously like rule heavy DMs and combat heavy campaigns, that'll be very strategic one. And very sort of number crunchy and etc. But we kind of play a bit more just
Fast and
narrative,
loose.
basically.
Yeah.
Yeah, just
Not always
Yeah.
fast, but we definitely play loose.
yeah,
Um,
not always that fast though. Sometimes very slow. Like planning
but
for 3 sessions kind of slow.
Two things, Michael. One, it's good to panic for your characters. That means you're like involved and you're invested. So even if it's a game,
I was
if you
very
get to
fond of
panic
Valorant.
in it, yeah.
Yeah.
And two, I think that makes a good cautionary tale about remembering the experience levels of other players. Because
Mm.
if I remember correctly, in my mind at that point, like I had character reasons to drag our cleric out, because they were like an item, basically.
Yeah.
But in my mind, you had like 15 different ways to escape as a wizard. But I guess you didn't know that, so
Yeah.
you were panicking. I just thought you were fine, and now, like a year or two later, I hear that you were panicking in the moment.
Yeah. I'm still dealing
Yeah.
with a letdown and disappointment.
The
in my life.
trauma.
I was just like, why is he so on board with this? Like he could, or like we didn't abandon him. He had like 15 ways to get out.
Yeah, which I find
Yeah.
whenever I play, if I've got a new spell, so I seem to always play spellcasters like Dimension Door. I'll look for an opportunity to use that spell, even if it puts me in incredible danger. And
Yeah,
it's
yeah, yeah.
entirely irresponsible from a strategic
Good.
point of view. It's like
You're responsible, but fun as hell.
yeah, yeah. That was the other thing that I can't fully remember it. It was something to do with the river, and basically, oh no, it was
Oh,
the Greyhawks send their
the
regards.
bodies. The
I
bodies, right?
still don't know what you fuckers were on about. Like, what the hell is happening?
I got very lost that time. Like,
Wait,
it was
the bodies in the river
just
or
you
the
and Ben going
Greyhawks
off on something.
send their regards bit, which is the bit that lost you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you sent bodies towards Vlam's village, right? So that
I don't remember why. And we were gonna just
Nobody does.
For miles.
right on them. But was it just me and Ben having a bit of a weird?
I think so. I
Section.
hope at least you or Ben knew what was going on,
yeah, yeah.
because otherwise it was just
was-
3 idiots building on their own idiocy.
Honestly, it was
nobody
like
knew.
there was so many moments like that for you and Ben, where like that was just one of the biggest ones.
Yeah.
But it was just like at that point, my mind was just like, all right, yeah, they're just talking shit at this point. Like,
Just enjoy
what
the
we
ride.
doing?
Yeah.
What we doing again?
Yeah.
Such a good combo. The
But-
big guy, the little guy, the dumb guy, the smart guy.
Yeah.
It was a really good setup. But Toff and Falric was my MVP combo.
Yeah,
Yeah.
super
Tough
good.
was great.
The
Tough was
descending stones, and then getting Vlam involved. So that I had to RP arguing with myself was quite fun. And then the poetry was very good.
The poetry. Jeez.
Yeah, orchid
Man.
poetry, lovely thing.
There was a moment in
Yes,
that
what was it?
campaign.
Wait. Monarch wings, Kobold sings.
No?
It goes
He's
on,
remembering
but
one
I
of
don't
Tuff's
remember.
poems. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's just
the Kobold
18
sings.
rhyming
everybody
couplets
swings.
that all have ing in them.
Ing.
There was a moment early on in that campaign where I realized I wasn't using a word correctly for about 20 years. We were in Horizon,
What was
and
that?
it was the word penultimate.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, Michael, I believe somebody from like the Wings, somebody was on stage doing a thing, and then they were like, "Now for my penultimate joke," and then they did it, and then they did the next one, and apparently by penultimate, I just thought it meant like the last, but it was the second to last. And somebody's like, "Somebody get that person a dictionary." So I immediately went to the internet, like, "Wait, what does this word mean?"
Uh,
So
I've never heard
yeah,
that word. What's it mean? I honestly don't know.
Second to last.
Second to last game.
Oh, second penultimate. Right. Okay.
Yeah. So
Right,
thank you
so-
for that education,
okay.
I guess. It's like, oh,
But yeah, I remember because this is the first ever D&D game that I played. I think for the first few times, because I was quite, it took me a while to warm up to you guys because I'd never met you and you were strange people on the internet, and I was always told to
Very.
avoid. But there's a bit where I think Ben, playing as Toff, was asking if there were any kobolds around because he wanted his cobalt sandwich or
Couple sandwich.
sorry.
Yes. Yes.
And so
Yes.
I think Angus said, you do detect some dragonkin in the area. And I was like, wait, kobolds are dragons? What?
yeah.
And then you guys were very polite about the whole, yes, yeah, they are.
They are.
I learned something new.
Yeah.
I think that's the difference between a good group and a bad group. Because if you got as good, it would have been like, well, duh, you absolute cretin. Of course they are. You should probably read up on this before you start playing it.
Yeah, know
Then it's
every
not-
law about every character, every race.
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
I
yeah.
wrote the player's handbook
Yeah.
before.
This race is not even in the basic player's handbook. Like, how do you not know this little line in the lore of it? Like,
Yeah,
the
if it was like, wait, Dragonborns are related to dragons?
yeah, oh yeah, yeah.
That would be
that's-
one thing, but like, yeah,
Yeah,
kobolds are especially fucky because like every like IP has a different type of kobold. Like
Yeah.
Warcraft, for
Yeah,
example, they're little mouse
Yeah.
people.
They're the ones that I'm
Um,
used to. The little
yeah.
Unity
wasn't there something else in like early D&D anyway?
Possibly.
Kobolds. I swear they were like more sort of rat people, dog people, or something. I don't know. It was something. Hyena,
Yeah.
I don't know. No, that was
So
what's
yeah,
the hyena ones?
kobolds of like
Gnolls
of
are
any
hyena
race.
ones, I think, or something.
Gnolls. Yeah, I love
Oh,
I love
no.
gnolls. Those little dog people.
Yeah, weird.
But yeah,
Yeah,
kobolds can get fucky. I love them though. They're just little like lizard people, and they're really cute. They're just little guys having a good time. Every kobold I
Yeah.
play is an idiot, and I love it.
They're just doing their own thing.
One of my favorite moments of like watching D&D, to be fair, was from Critical Role when isn't it one of the designers of D&D or something? He was a guest, I
Oh
believe.
yeah,
And
Chris something.
yeah, and he played I forgot
Like
his name, the character's name.
Shmi
It
or
was a
something.
kobold.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you play the kobold. So usually when they have a guest on, the guest stays for a whole session, right? Like a whole 3-4 hour session. Often it's like multiple sessions, right? They stay for like 2-3 sessions, maybe even like up to 10 sessions, right? So this one, it was literally one of the designers of D&D, and he's like, all right, I'm playing this little kobold character. He literally took like an NPC kobold sheet, character sheet. It was just this little kobold, and they go into this underground world, and they go, they come across a thing. Also, spoilers, D&D campaign 2. Well, Critical Role even. They go into this underground bit, and there's I think these like titans, fire titans, or something. Not titans, giants. There's something, right? Like
Hmm.
something like that. And so he was literally around them for like 15 minutes, like real time, 15 minutes. And he's sort of like, how old are you? He's like, I'm 9. And they're like, oh, how old do cobbers live? 9. So he was like, right, okay, all right then. So they take him down sort of the tunnel. They come across these giants, and they're like, oh god. And he just runs out of there, attacks them with like bees or something, throws a beehive at them, and it's just splat. one shot, character dead. He leaves. It was the most hilarious thing I've ever seen. I literally, like, I had to rewatch it 5 times just like to just stop
Get through it without
enjoying
cackling.
it, get
Yeah.
through it. Like, I couldn't stop laughing at it live. It's still one of my favorite moments. It's so funny.
Hell yeah.
Like, it's It's worth just having a watch. Like it's probably clipped like a whole 15-20 minute thing somewhere. It's such a good little watch. It's amazing. One of
Absolutely.
the best guest appearances.
So I'm
in
gonna
terms
BRB
of-
real quick.
In terms of worst moments, with D&D specifically,
Worst.
encounters that you've come up against. I think for me, it's what are they called? The ones that hang from the ceiling and they kind of reach down when you're asleep if you're in a
Spiders?
cave. just spiders in general.
Spiders?
Anytime I come across them, they ruin absolutely everything. Well, not called reachers or stringers or stickers. It ends with an noise.
I don't remember. I don't remember.
Stalactite
Was it?
monster.
Oh,
5th edition. Piercer, roper, a roper.
Oh.
Yeah, I didn't like it when we had to fight those in the Horizon campaign.
What were they? I don't remember.
So they basically pretend to be stalagmites in caves that are like the deposits of minerals that are built up. But so they can have 6 tendrils. Each tendril has its own set of hit points, and basically it can attack 4 times and bite. But it has a thing called reel, where each creature grappled by it is pulled towards it up to 25 feet, which in a small cave basically means that it kind of just pulls you in constantly. So if you're, I suppose for Ario, in fact, I suppose for basically everyone except for me as a spellcaster, it wasn't that bad. But I just remember it causing a huge amount of trouble for what is not a. I mean, it's challenge 5, but I think we were like level 7s or whatever.
Yeah.
We should have been able to take a couple of them, but it just caused chaos. For us.
I remember something like that. I don't remember where it was though. Like
It
what,
was
at what
Towards
point?
the end of when we stopped playing the Horizon campaign, we were scouting towards the library that we had to find for Cecilia's,
Right.
and instead of taking the dwarven mountain route, we kind of skirted around. I remember we had to try and find our way across like a big, massive wall that bordered off this old
Right.
destroyed area, and I think we tried to do it by convincing people that Cecilia was Rick's like caretaker, and he was just a senile old man who was looking for someone.
Mm.
I don't think that worked very well.
Yeah, there was
I
like
mean-
a little fort thing guarding it or something,
Yeah.
right? Like
And then
I don't
we,
remember it working well, but I remember you playing the part perfectly.
Mm.
and then there was something really big and scary, and acid on the floor, and we fought this thing.
Oh, the Bahia, yeah.
We're like,
oh.
I kind of expected to get some kind of loot or reward from it, but we didn't. And then we just went to
No,
hide
it's
in a
just a
cave.
monster. It's just
And
a
then-
random bad guy. Yeah.
Yeah, and then nearly got killed by this
Funny.
roper thing. So I think that was like the most exasperating encounter that I've had, aside from being trapped with hags and abandoned, and then not invited to weddings. It's fine.
Again, I thought it was fine, and like 2 years later, I finally know why he was so mad about
I'm
it.
never gonna stop complaining about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was
But,
like
yeah.
the most frustrating or annoying encounters that you've experienced, Desmond.
Oh, this fucking cave comes to mind immediately. It wasn't difficult, it was just incredibly frustrating. Y- yeah, okay, so my Saturday game, especially it has this like really spacey periods where we might get together once or twice a month because it keeps getting canceled. It's a weekly game, but you know, it keeps getting canceled for one reason or another. In the middle of one of those spacey periods, we were in the middle of a cave, like going towards my personal like character stuff, a character I've been playing for 6 years, so I should be like super invested. But we were going to this fucking crystal cave for basically the entire session for like fucking 4 hours or whatnot. And everyone was just like ultra paranoid, except for me. But everyone was like, you know, we got to take our time. We got to do this fight. Who knows what's gonna happen? And in this game, the DM creates some fucking monsters. Like, I don't think anything you could throw at us would scare me as much as like a random fucking wolf in this game. Uh, but we were just going through this cave for like so goddamn long, and like I don't remember if at the end that there was a bad guy because it just took so long, and we're just walking through a cave. It was the most egregious like example of like you play for 4 hours and then you walk down a hallway. It was the most egregious example of that I've ever encountered, and like I try not to be salty about this game because I love it and I love the characters and the people. But that session was like, oh boy, I'm glad we don't play for at least a week because I need to like put that out of my mind before we actually do anything. It was incredibly frustrating. Just nothing happened. We were all just like inching our way forwards, and like the creatures trapped in the crystals in the wall. Like everyone is expecting them to jump out or something, but like we tried to trigger it. We tried to do everything. It took so long and nothing happened. Absolutely nothing happened. I was like, come on, motherfuckers.
Yeah, that's one that I've always had trouble with is how you do travel in a compelling and interesting way.
She could
Um,
consider
It's
travel. We
difficult.
went 60 fucking feet.
Travel's weird in D&D because it's really difficult, but at the same time, like there's times when I found it really easy to do. It's odd. Like, how have you handled it before? Would you say
Is this to me or Michael?
to Michael?
Well, like I say, I mostly get it off how I've experienced Angus doing it. So get a rough idea of how far away the thing is, and then if it's really far, hand wave some of it, and then
Yeah.
do it on a kind of travel by day, random, like rolling a dice to see if something happens, and then if during the night, seeing who's taking watch, and then trying to gauge kind of what happens during the individual watches. So in the last session, when we had basically a 2-day travel, I was like, oh, well, I don't really have 2 days worth of content because we spent like 4 weeks on one afternoon.
It's a busy
So yeah,
afternoon.
then we just kind of got to. I focused on what information we could get out there. After the point at which you've kind of set up camp. So the process of traveling and then setting up camp is kind of boring. And I think the same when you guys were on your way to Brigand's Bog. And I was like, oh crap, I haven't prepared anything. There's a fork in the road. And then that kind of evolved into the Gnomish village, which then evolved into, the Gnomish kind of slave mines and uprising.
Who we freed and liberated. We want to slave us in that case.
Yes, yeah. Just a disclaimer: the party were not enslaving gnomes. So, yeah, and so it can be really good because it gives you that opportunity to improvise, and then that informs your wider story. But I just find it difficult to, know how much detail to put in with traveling.
It is really difficult, and I used to struggle with it as well. I'll tell you what, sometimes, like, when I was running a campaign for my friends in person at one point, it was a campaign that, and like, we never finished it. We never even finished like the first act that it was meant to be, which was basically, it started in, the campaign started where I made the characters with each of the I actually thought this idea was kind of cool. I made the character with each of the players, and I basically told them, like, I told them not to talk to each other what characters they were because it'd be a surprise because it's just me. But I basically told them that they were in completely different places when they started the campaign, right? And then as I was introducing the campaign in the very first session, I basically said, as you go to bed in your bedrolls, you suddenly wake up in a completely different place, and they're all together, sort of in chains in some sort of dungeon together, right?
Mhm.
And that's how they got together. And they had to figure out, like, where the hell are we? Why are we here? They get out of this castle,
Yeah, that's
and
cool.
it's and it was just middle of wilderness, right? So for weeks, like in-game weeks, they were just in this wilderness, and the whole sort of first act, the main objective was get back to civilization, right? Which they almost did in the end. It's just we ended up ending it at one point. It was kind of like a good point. Like we could have finished it like soon after, but it was whatever. But I remember, so there was a whole bit sort of chapter in Village that it did, and then after the Village, they were basically sent. There was this news of this big drow army being built and stuff, so they had to warn people. They have to hurry up, go to this like fortress, and then from the fortress later on go towards civilization. So to the fortress, like I had to think of some like way of traveling, and I remember it was like kind of like a wintry, early winter, kind of like maybe around this time of the year, and we did it in my mate's garden. Okay, we literally sat there in the garden, little like a few candles and stuff. So it was proper cold, and it was the winter time in game as well. So I basically came up with this blizzard. Okay, so the blizzard lasted a week, right, in game, and I basically made them go for each one of the days in sort of different ways. And like I was kind of worried at the time that like because I wanted to travel between the week to last about one session. But I was kind of worried that maybe I'll make it boring something, so I was trying to think of things. And I remember actually like my friends literally coming up to me like this year and talking about it, like, oh man, I love that bit. Like it was so cool, you know? Like it's like, oh yes, I did it right. But yeah, they
Hell
just
yeah.
ended up I remember they like I made it sort of I was rolling for how strong the blizzard was getting, if it was like picking up or coming down and stuff a little bit, plus a little bit making up on my own as well. And that influenced like what they had to do. So they had to like hide in a cave for a couple of days, and then like they had to figure out food because they were low on rations. And like it was like a really good, like I think it was like a natural 20. They found like a deer just like trying to find like shelter or something in the first day, so they managed to kill it, drag it back and stuff. They like fed off it and stuff. It was really interesting. Like, and then eventually at the end they got to the sort of the fortress, and they were like, "Yes, we did it," you know, like, and like you think you're not doing that good, but then in reality, the players are enjoying it. So
Yeah.
that's why I learned. You just gotta make it interesting, really. Like if it's the travel can be completely skipped if there's nothing interesting, and there's nothing wrong with that. You can literally go, all right, you travel for a week, the road is good, maybe you come across this and that, or you can literally go hour by hour. But it's just a matter of whether it's interesting. If the story progresses, right? Like,
Yeah.
because if it feels like it's stagnant, if you feel like you've not accomplished anything in a while, then
Then there's
obviously
something wrong with
it's
your pacing. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. But if they feel rewarded, if they feel like, oh yes, we got through this day, this difficult day of blizzard, and they feel rewarded by it, by like something cool, then it's it's good travel.
Hell yeah. I basically treat travel like a screenwriter. So if there's no
Yeah.
point to the current scene, we cut to the next scene.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And also gamify it a little bit. Make it, make it a challenge. Like maybe if they roll well, they get this, but maybe if they roll badly, they have to like do something else and figure this out. You know, like make them think about it, and that's what kind of makes it fun, right? Like if you're just describing them walking, like obviously it's not fun. Like they're gonna do something, right?
Yeah.
Like you walk some, and then you walk past a tree. Then there's a
It's
river.
a really big tree.
I mean that basically
What do you
was how I
do? You
described
walk across the river.
your approach to the gnome village.
Yeah.
So you've covered. You mentioned kind of the session 0 or first session. You meet in a tavern cliche.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Thoughts
I've
on
done that recently. It's really fun.
Of course.
thoughts on that? Because I've always quite liked the whole you meet in a tavern thing.
Yeah.
Mm.
Nothing wrong
You
with
got to do it at least once. It's a classic.
it. It's like playing D&D and never encountering a dragon or a dungeon. Like, you know?
In
Um,
this most,
A good point.
yeah. Did you have a story there, Michael, or can I jump in?
No, but I was just trying to get people's general consensus on what makes a good, first session introducing characters.
Oh, okay. Well, here's what I did most recently. I don't. I definitely would have done it slightly differently in retrospect, but I wanted to treat them to the old classic of you meet in a tavern. So I made a tavern, I populated it with people, and then you slowly introduce them one at a time. This specific one I went really basic with because like 3 out of the 3 players were extremely new to D&D. So um but yeah, it could be so helpful just to give them like a calm environment to introduce them each other, and then like uh figure out some like immediate character dynamics. Like this one character's a little bit of a goblin, so she set her cloak on fire on accident, and then went to go talk to the cod lady, the tail cod lady, whatever they're called. And you just kind of let them bullshit, and it's just like it's a gentle nudging
Mm.
into the world of D&D. But taverns can be very
Yeah.
helpful.
You gotta fill out the group as well. What is the group like, right? Like,
Hmm.
do they like bullshitting their way through things, like, or do they like to just get to the point? Like,
How do they
it's
respond
matter of-
when Max runs in and tells them that there's danger out in the woods?
Well, there's a
Yeah.
dead body in the alleyway.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so our current campaign that started in an inn or a tavern.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Was it Jacob
I thought it was actually
or
quite an
Devon
original way
playing?
to start in a tavern as well.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, I
One of my
liked it.
favorite campaigns in recent memory, or the start of campaigns in recent memory.
Yeah.
And I started it dead,
very cool.
so
yeah,
Yeah,
it's all up
yeah.
from there.
yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was a pretty. I think it's probably more so that you're all very experienced players, but it was very quick to just. I didn't have to do much work at the very beginning. It was like, oh, you see someone playing lute on a stage, and then Angus picked up immediately. Oh, that's his
Play,
time
right?
to-
Like, yeah.
to introduce his character.
Mm.
Yeah.
Kill bod, be bod.
I mean, let's put it this way: the first session was so good, we decided that we wished we had recorded it, so we decided to record the next one. So, you
Yeah,
know.
there was also that.
Yeah.
Which reminds me, I need to do the highlights from the last session because
Mm.
we need to get Brick
What did we
the
do last session?
devil.
Where did it end? Where did last session end again?
It ended with Ursh of many names disappearing
Right.
into the
Yes,
ground
the
beneath
devil.
you. And,
Yeah.
Brick
The devil.
Yeah.
asking you to play the best song in the world or he'll eat your soul.
I was the whole time I was just picturing Tenacious D, I swear.
And
Just,
Calbor of Nim is cowering inside the tent after you've all kind of dealt with the devil. And we discovered that Temerity is at least passingly familiar with the concept of devils, so there will no doubt be lots of interesting discussion next session as you make your way to the vineyard of Calbor. We seem to spend a lot of time in vineyards in our campaign.
Yeah, right.
A classic D&D thing.
We
Medieval.
like wine, I guess.
Yeah,
I like wine.
and I suppose you've got like a central building and then a surrounding area with obstacles and space for things to hide. So yeah, I see why vineyards are quite popular.
Plus, I mean, like you're thinking countryside. That's not a farm, right?
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, it's like kind of civilized bit, but like away from the town. So you're thinking vineyard. Right? Like what else is there? Like a farm,
You find yourself
and
on
an orchard. I don't know.
Yeah.
And it's a great way to mix like social classes as well. 'Cause you got all the rich
Mm.
folk,
Yeah,
and then you
exactly.
get the dirty adventurers
Exactly.
roaming around.
It's the rich farm, right? Like
Yeah.
Rich
proper
farm.
rich ones.
Good old Montague.
You know, Montague.
Mm.
I
Ooh,
like Blue Montague.
the hallucinogenic wine that we've not tried it yet.
No, you haven't. There's
Yeah.
something else that I was really wanting you to do. Oh, yeah, I was last session. Really
Devon's
wanted
thing,
you
right?
to, yeah, really wanted someone to try Devon's mystery liquid.
Mm.
Yeah. There was something similar to that in the first campaign we did, wasn't it? It was like a can, and you
Oh,
shook
yeah.
it, and it
Kinda
had
liquid.
in it, but then it didn't have liquid in
It
it.
had liquid in it, but when you opened it, it was gone. Nothing was in it.
That was it. Do we know what that was?
Yeah. Nope.
I know.
Did Angus just
So
come up with
so I
something
had
completely
that.
obscure?
Yeah, I had that. I got it. I don't remember when I got it the first time, but it was kind of like liquid in it, right? So I ended up opening it empty. So I ended up using it as like distraction, and then I ended up in the market coming across that thing again, and I was like, "Ooh, I'll keep it this time. Won't open it." I ended up keeping it. And I don't remember what I did with it. I think I just carried it the whole campaign. Inventory. I was like, "Oh, this will come useful. It's gonna be my staple. Just roll a can of liquid and make them confused."
Every time you open it, it like kills a god or something incredibly dramatic, but you just don't know.
Entire
Yeah.
continent's a lane waste every time you open it.
I think about those characters in that campaign like once every couple of weeks. Like they live rent free in my mind.
Right.
Especially like Carl, I want to break your keyboard again, just so you could talk. You could type like a tabaxi. That killed me
I
for
still
like a
got that
week
keyboard.
straight.
I can do it anytime. Well, when I'm in Poland, but
So feel free to break it out. It's a good little like dopamine rush for me. Every time I read your tabaxi.
Yeah, we should
oh,
when he's up for it, we should maybe in the new year twist Angus's arm to do some pickup of
yeah,
that
just do a
campaign.
little episode
Yeah,
Ma-
maybe with
or
that.
a chapter.
Either concluding like what happened with Cecilia and all of that, or setting it like 5 years in the future when everyone's like 20 years in the future when everyone's old and having a reunion.
Well, then we really need to know what
yeah.
happened to Cecilia.
Just one last
Yeah.
adventure. She's
Okay.
fine. She probably just killed everyone. It's all good.
She's either she's
she's
fine
just
or
running the
everyone
world
is
now.
dead.
Hmm.
I mean, I'd be down with that. Maybe it's just because I
Ariel
played her,
was-
but I'm quite fond of Cecilia. I want her to be okay.
yeah. Even though your stats were dog shit.
Oh yeah, that is part of the reason why I always at the beginning of campaigns I'm always like, can we like all take the same stats or something? Because
yeah,
Toph was like
yeah.
crazy powerful with all of his shit, and I
Mhm.
was running around with a bunch of like 14s, and I could like barely hit anything. I
Yeah,
had to take
like
expertise
at the
just to hold
start.
somebody.
At the start, you didn't have a single +3 at all, did you? It was just like maximum
No.
+2, and then like a
She's
bunch
very
of
well
minuses. You know?
rounded. I think she had like one negative stat. Everything else was 14, but either way. Uh, so yeah, I'm quite fond of the idea of everyone having like rolling for the stats and then maybe picking the highest powerful one,
Mm.
which of course means the powerful,
Yeah.
but you know, I like being the heroes, the strong people
Mhm.
in the campaign.
Yeah, it's
I
not
remember.
just
I remember. I liked the way I did it with like my friends in person when we used to play. I think when it was my turn to DM, I think we did. Well, we did it a bunch of different ways, yeah. But like, I think my favorite was when I basically made everyone roll stats, and then we just picked one out of all of them, which one we liked the most, or which one was the best, or
Mhm.
whatever, and then we
Hmm.
just used that one as one for everyone.
Yeah,
Yeah, so
that way it's still
but
a bit
it's
random, but everyone's on the same playing field.
it's all up to you. Like there is no wrong way. It's just as long as
Mhm.
it's fun. But yeah, having the same stats, I remember it just kind of it
Yeah,
just makes it everyone the same. Like everyone's just as powerful, right? Like
yeah.
everyone's more powerful.
I
It's easy to balance as well, I think, later on. But
mhm.
yeah,
I'll fully admit to some like poisoning on my part, which sounds really bad. I mean, like I've been poisoned,
Oh, okay.
because in my Saturday game, again, I love everyone to bits, but there are like three um like munchkins, like power gamers, and like their characters are all monsters in one way or another. One has like a spell save DC of like 20 or even higher, and they can give disadvantage to the saves, and this other one's just like gunslinger who could put out like 200 damage. And I'm just there with my like little like jack of all trades, the monkey cleric. Wasn't actually a monkey, but you know, like a skill monkey sort of deal. Like I don't excel at anything. Now I feel like super useless because all these people could do a bajillion things that are like
Mm.
all incredibly high level. And that if if you have that many like arguably if you even have just one, but power gamers, they crank up the difficulty for everyone in the party because the DM has to challenge them or at least
Mm.
meet them on the field. But that means the DM makes fucking monsters, and like everything in your world is just terrifying monsters that like would look at a villager and have them deleted from existence. And that's just the motherfuckers you're fighting every goddamn week. And it's like, God,
yeah.
that's why I've enjoyed
It-
playing with you guys a lot more because it's chill and I don't need to make a god to compete. Like I could
Yeah.
just make like a knight or something. It's great.
You know what just came to my head? Never played a campaign where everyone's kind of underpowered. Like everyone's kind of weak.
Well,
Like
it's like
low
normal.
stats, maybe a few
standard dude.
minuses. Everyone's just kind of bad at things.
Bad
I kind of
things.
wonder how that
Yeah.
would go. Like like 2 or 3 minuses things, maybe like 2 zeros, one like a decent start, and one like a +1 +2 or something. Like
Mm.
kind of like a lower than average campaign. I wonder how it would go. Obviously, balancing like if everyone's like that, DM just balances it out. But like, I just wonder like
Mhm.
how. I guess a basic bandit would just suddenly feel a little bit more maybe intimidating at the start, and
Mm.
Yeah.
I just wonder how if it would change anything like just feel wise in the game.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean,
it's
if you didn't adjust for your players, like the weaknesses, they probably would make the world
Hmm.
feel a lot more dangerous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Make
And if
commoners
you're,
feel confident.
I think if you're playing like a low fantasy setting, it could work.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
if you're going up against a lich or something, then you're kind of screwed.
Mm-hmm.
But if it's like bandits, feudal lords,
Mm.
wild
I always wanted
animals,
to play that, something like that.
Yeah. Put something in like Edo area, Japan or something.
Yeah, or like literally just
That
like
was
Game
a
of
good fact.
Thrones or something, like that kind of thing. Like Game of
Mm.
Thrones is very low fantasy, but like obviously at the end it gets
A
like
little
a bit
bit.
more, right? But
Yeah.
like for the first few seasons, it's very low fantasy. Like it's basically just medieval show, right? More or less, except there's dragons. Like
Okay. I have to take your word on that. I'm far more familiar. Thanks to Eric and Moe, who are both over in Japan. I know much more about Japan than I do Game of Thrones. It's one of those cultural things that just completely blew past me, and I've like
yeah.
I watched the bus disappear in the background. Like I haven't even bothered to catch up to it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're not missing a huge amount. What was the was it Angus who said that you could have a late Edo period samurai, a French
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
pilot,
Whenever,
and an English something.
Gentleman sort of duel. Yeah.
Yeah.
mhm.
You could have
When
a,
I,
what was it? A
Realistically in
cowboy.
the same time period. Yeah, a cowboy, that was it.
Yeah, a gunslinger
Um,
cowboy, samurai,
the
the
pirate.
English gentleman, Victorian
Yeah.
gentleman, and the pirate was it? Yeah.
yeah, which
When-
I guess
And
in our
it's all
campaign we've almost got that.
within the same. Yeah,
Yeah, we've
almost.
got 3 of them. Granted, I'm playing Timothy more like a boxer than a
Which is-
samurai, but he does have the sword.
Yeah,
Whenever I describe this game to like outside people, especially if I don't think they play D&D, I always describe it as so 3 of my friends and I, we found out that samurais, cowboys, and pirates all existed in the same time period. So we're putting together like a play like that is what would happen if all 3 of those people got together. So yeah, I always just describe it as a play because we found out 3 of those people could exist at the same time.
Mm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a great way to just describe what's going on.
How do you guys approach or explain the concept of D&D to people who haven't played it before when you're talking to them?
I just go. It's make believe, but it's for adults, and you roll dice to determine how you play make believe.
I just go with the theater option. Like yeah, we're just putting on a little play, and we use dice as like a bit of random chance in it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's quite a good way to do it. I mean,
I
I
also
think most
describe
people.
the DM as the director and also
Yeah.
several actors.
Yeah, I think most people nowadays are kind of familiar with the concept.
Yeah, there's a lot.
Most
Yeah,
people in our age bracket, maybe.
yeah.
Well,
More than like 10 years ago, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Most older people that
Yeah.
I've spoken to are from kind of know the they may not understand how it plays and what the
Yeah.
real benefits are, but they seem familiar with the concept of the game as it exists.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, I find it quite fun to talk about with people, especially if you can talk about it in an obscure or in a context where they're not really expecting it. So I've mentioned it in like interviews and stuff before because it builds up quite useful skills, soft skills that
Oh, it does.
improvisation
And honestly, as a
problem solving.
DM, improv, improv is
Yeah.
massive.
Yeah, D&D is great for teaching you how to be a leader, especially if you have
Yeah,
DM.
exactly.
Like, even just
Yeah.
as like a party member, it's all
Yeah.
problem solving with a group.
Yeah, just
Yeah.
on the fly, problem solving and like social interaction, improvising. You know, like that kind of thing, like with people.
Yeah, it's
improvising with
really
people.
because one thing that becomes quite quickly apparent, especially if you join a new group and maybe you don't know the people, is that you have to be involved.
Yeah.
So I was quite quiet, I think, for the first few sessions. But if you want to actually take part in the game, you have to come up with ideas and you have to put those ideas forwards and you know, discuss or even argue with people around what should we do.
You also need to learn a skill, which I didn't have the longest time as a wee baby. And by wee baby, I mean even just like teenagers. But like the ability to interject, not necessarily interrupt, but like borderline hop into the conversation. Like don't be walked
hop
over.
in. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I still struggle that in real life, honestly.
Yeah, likewise.
It's a skill that's very difficult to teach in a formal setting. I think you either have to kind of be brought up with that kind of, like if you've got older siblings, you're probably going to be fairly used to just kind of shoving your head in and going, oh, well, actually, I think this. But I think lots of people, probably of the younger generation, it's really nice to have an environment that's fun, but also lets you polish these social skills that you might not be able to use elsewhere.
And where it's encouraged. I find a lot of,
Yeah.
I'm gonna say young people, but I just mean people in general, are afraid to polish these skills because being reprimanded in one way or another socially.
Yeah.
So like in D&D, people are actively like hop in, or if you're not talking a lot, to tell you to talk more
Yeah.
and like
Yeah,
be
to
more
try and
involved.
get you
right?
in.
Like,
Mhm.
yeah,
They'll
exactly.
encourage it.
Yeah,
So
That's a
D&D is
point,
really
yeah.
good. Everyone should play D&D.
yeah,
My fucking managers at work should play D&D and learn to manage it a little better.
yeah, right.
Yeah.
I mean,
I-
they always said for for improvising and things like that, as we were talking about, like people used to say like, oh, go for for social skills and stuff, improvising and things like that. Improv classes, right? With acting, improv classes. Like even you don't even need to act that much. Just go for an improv class, and it's like it helps you make things up on the fly. Just play D&D.
Yeah. I mean, it's one and the same.
Just play D&D.
They could
It's
both
the
help each
same
other
thing.
quite a
You
lot.
just roll dice as well. Like you're playing the game as well with it.
Yeah.
But I've never done improv acting. I guess I would like to try it.
Well,
I think it
yeah,
sounds pretty
likewise.
fun.
Come
Sounds
to
pretty
America.
fun.
We'll do the road trip and we'll find some
Yeah.
we'll find like multiple improv places to stop by.
Just
Be
do a
like, yeah, we're
Yes.
touring. We're just
Yes.
fucking having some fun.
Yeah, you can convince
Great.
them that you're really well known in Wales.
Yeah. Oh, there's a
But
funny.
yeah.
Sorry, go on. Go on.
I mean, it's so much harder to do now, like lie about like your past accomplishments, because everyone has their phones and they could just Google,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
In
Yeah,
D&D, or even just like 40 years ago, you could be like, "Yeah, man, I'm really well known and on the East Coast, like everyone knows me." But now, if you don't at least have like a YouTube or something, people could be like, "Who the fuck are you?" You're like you're either lying or bullshitting, either one. I saw Michael. Your
Yeah.
camera on
Yeah.
screen has
I
gone to
I
the
don't
wall.
know
It's
what
back.
happened there.
Okay.
It's back.
That was interesting. Yeah, the social side of stuff, and the skills you build is so. Whenever I talk about it, I try and actively encourage people to get involved, especially with how easy it is nowadays to kind of take part in it. Like there's loads of local groups around where I am that do D&D sessions, which even back in, well, I guess would be 2019 when I joined you guys, is like there's no one local doing it. Hence me creating a Reddit account and responding to your adverts. So yeah, it's just there's no real reason not to. I suppose, like even if you're socially anxious, you can play in the way that
actually
suits
helps,
you.
yeah.
There's no like cookie cutter, where cookie,
You made some very funny faces on Michael, and I have Discord open on one screen. I caught it, and then I have the stream open on my main. So I got to watch you make that silly face twice.
You should see some of the faces when I'm DMing and doing all my different voices, because my face changes with the voice.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Social anxiety and different ways to play. Yeah.
Yeah, it's yeah. There's loads of opportunities for people to get involved. Speaking of voices, that's I think my favorite part of DMing is making up these characters. And I think I prefer that to actually playing a character in a lot of ways. And just coming up with someone interesting.
It's really fun.
And usually I'll come up with a vague concept. So for example, this person is very wealthy, so I'll give them a stereotypical English upper class what kind of voice, and I say, Someone says that sounds a bit like Boris Johnson, doesn't it? It just evolves into a caricature. Um, So, but my favorite is, I only have like 5 different voices, so I have to vary them. My favorite is from
Yeah.
a game that I ran in real life with my wife and some of our friends. And I needed a barmaid, so I just made. Desmond, this might not mean much to you, but basically, did you ever watch EastEnders, Carl? And in the latest, like, few years ago, there's a very large woman called Heather, who was just a unit. Like,
Hell yeah.
Right.
so
Right.
I basically copied that and had this barmaid called Elsa, who sounded a lot like this, and she fell in love with that little gnome over there, and occasionally some kisses and some smooches. It's just become an
It
ongoing
was
thing
hilarious.
that
It was hilarious.
that like I'll just reference to my wife. So that if she ever kicks me out, I'll just go and live with Elsa or something. And
Just an imaginary character in your mind.
yeah, it's fine.
That gets sadder the more you think of it.
But it's interesting how it kind of permeates into your actual life. Not just how like we reference things that have happened in previous sessions, but I'll actually think about something will remind me of Toph, or for some reason I thought about Ario a few days ago. I think it's because I
You look at a cat.
Oh, very fast thought.
So it's interesting how when you're either developing your own character or if you're the DM, you're creating this world and these myriad characters that you're usually just making up on the fly. And they just become part of your perception of the world around
Yeah, it just sticks in
It's
your
really
brain,
interesting.
doesn't it? Like
Yeah.
it's quite vivid in a way. No,
Mm.
but I
Well,
was going to say that barmaid woman Elsa that you said is hilarious because there's where I'm from, the town I'm from, there's literally a woman.
Yeah.
Named Elsa.
Yeah.
No, I don't remember what her name is, but she
There's one in
smokes
every
a
pub.
lot. She smokes a lot.
Very
And
gruff.
she's like she's nice, okay. She's kind of not like you don't think it, but she's all right. But
Yeah.
when you see her, when she talks to you, you think, "Oh my god, she's gonna kill me!" Yeah, like
Don't blast
Hell
her.
yeah.
Sorry.
I love that type of
Yeah.
lady.
Yeah.
Like the tough, like no nonsense might put out a hit on you, might just kill you herself type of old lady is my favorite archetype that exists IRL. Like whenever I see those
Crusher
type of
Man's
people,
still
I'm
with
like,
it,
hell
man.
yeah.
Yeah. In that campaign, Elsa at some point basically somehow ended up engaged to one of the characters who he was quite reluctant to go through with the engagement at the time. And he was in like deathly peril and was gonna die. But she was nearby. It's kind of like a Deus Ex Machina. But she was so big she couldn't fit through the door. She's just like outside shouting encouragement to him and threatening anyone who hurts him.
Oh,
Yeah, it's good fun.
speaking
Basically,
of
rotten
like
fridge.
NPCs, like
Mm.
thinking about NPCs as you go throughout like your life, I think a lot of that is like the everyday kind of version of that is just like there are all these different type of archetypes that just exist in our mind, like our collective unconscious or what have you. And then like whenever you actually meet one of those archetypes in real life, you tend to like go back to that person you've met.
Yeah.
So when you're creating NPCs and you just have to pull from your mind, sometimes you're pulling from these like archetypes, and then that person is basically like created in a pseudo sense in your mind,
Yeah.
and now you've met that person, even if it was just an NPC in a
Exactly.
video game.
Yeah, that's a really good
So
way
you-
to.
Yeah. And now your brain will just go back, be like, "Oh, I know that type of person." Like even if I was the one who created
Yeah,
them.
yeah,
Uh,
It's like
I've
quick
met that
retrieve
archetype.
memory, isn't it? That you can
Yeah,
instead of thinking, oh, what is this person's life story? No, it's basically just Frank, but he's an elf.
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
Bloody elves.
man. The social interaction and then like the melding of everyone's humanity, really, like going like the history and all that stuff. I love those little moments, and they don't have to be D&D. They could be literally anything, like a movie or whatnot. But you see like a type of character, like an archetype, and then you think back to everyone you've known, and then everyone who's also seeing that type of person, like the grungy skater who probably does drugs, but you have a feeling is like pretty straight edge when you get down to it. Like we're all thinking of that person, like, and we all have that type of person in our minds. And I just think that's kind of like beautiful that we have these archetypes that we can connect to so easily,
Mhm.
and just like
Also,
share in that mental moment.
what's crazy about D&D when you think about it is also that, like, we're all playing the same thing, but in our heads, that's a different thing in each one of our heads. Like, we imagine everything slightly differently, you know? Like,
Hmm.
it's like we'll describe the same character, but we all see it as a different thing. And it's literally like when you read a book, like it's sort of special to you, isn't it?
Yeah,
Because like no one imagines the book exactly the way you do. Same thing with D&D. Like it's kind of like it's different from like a video game, movie, or anything like that. Like
yeah,
so it stands more in that book department almost. In that sort of word of mouth storytelling department. Like
yeah. We're all sharing the
yeah,
exact same adventure, but it's wholly unique for
yeah,
everyone.
exactly.
Yeah,
It's kind of, but it almost makes it like it sounds like it. When you say that, it sounds like it makes it sort of a bit individual, but it doesn't feel like that. It feels like a very much like a group thing, right? Like it feels like part of
yeah.
Yeah,
It's
part of
all
something. It's
simultaneously.
not.
That's what
yeah,
makes it so
Yeah,
magical.
exactly.
and collaboratively as well. So
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah, it's not like you could just all have 4 separate stories going on.
Yeah,
I mean, the DM's setting out, I suppose, the kind of foundation, but then it would be no fun if everyone just imagined their own thing and didn't try and impact that for everyone else. So
Mhm.
yeah, one thing that I found really good with playing with you guys is that you'll take each NPC seriously, even if it's a silly NPC. You'll give it
yeah,
the
yeah,
the,
yeah,
the, the consideration that it's due. You don't just like, oh, okay, it's a merchant.
yeah.
Carry on with the quest. And
Yeah.
that's how you get things like Barry the Fence, who
Fuck off, Barry.
just an irritating character, but he could easily, if you guys would have just been dismissive of kind of him as an NPC, I wouldn't have brought him back all the times that I have, and he wouldn't
Yeah,
have evolved as an NPC as a character.
yeah,
So I'm really thankful that we have a group where I can, and I think that's probably what makes the DMing so much fun. Is it's not like I'm saying, here are a list of things that are happening to you. Here is what you see. Here is what the dice say. We're building a story collaboratively together.
yeah,
And that is hugely rewarding because anytime you do get
yeah,
remember when that happened and you were part of the group or the concept that created that thing that people can enjoy and share. That's really rewarding. More
yeah.
so than I think
It,
most game type things.
yeah, so it basically almost like instead of you saying, "Oh, here's Barry," all right, who is Barry? Why do we care? What does he have for us? Okay, cool. Thanks, Barry. See ya. Right.
Yeah.
Instead of that, it's like, "Oh, hey, Barry, fuck off, mate. Like you're fucking annoying. Get out of here." And then you're like, "Hey, that was funny. Let's bring you back again. Hey, fuck off, Barry. What the fuck you doing?
I want to slap him
Barry.
again.
I was laughing again."
Uh,
Uh,
yeah. Good old
just
Barry.
like react to things,
Yeah.
when you
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Just instead of because it's almost it's fine to sort of brush over things sometimes, but it's fun to just uh
Get in the
just
weeds.
just yeah, get away with it a little bit because it,
Hmm.
it kind of makes it more memorable, right? Just that
Yeah.
random shopkeep that's just like yeah, the DM only gives it like one quirk. He just talks funny, but then one of the players makes fun out of the way he talks, and then he remembers that, and it ends up being like a funny thing that you keep bringing up, and then you come back there again. He's like, "Oh no, it's these guys again," and it's
Mm.
suddenly a thing. It's no longer just a random NPC number one. It's suddenly Barry,
Yeah.
like it's or Hank or whatever, right?
Oh, Hank.
Yeah. We remember the fast talking NPC. We go back. We try to fast talk right back to them. And then you start building off of each other, and all of a sudden there's a rap battle going on, and nobody knows why.
Well, that's one of my favorite things, even though it's really small, is Mr. Mazim at the Halcyon in our current campaign, and the thing he has going with Devon, where they're just being bitchy to each other, and I'm not too sure why or how that started.
Yeah. It's not
and
always important. Sometimes you
it's
just
just
gotta
like
do it.
this snide relationship between two fictional characters that developed just organically between two people who've never actually met. And it's fun, and I think reasonably entertaining.
Yeah.
But how else can you do that? Because I think one thing that I'm aware, we have a variety of age groups, but I'm not of the generation where it's easy to make friends with people who you don't know. And then as you get older, it's hard to make friends in general. Like
Yeah,
once
because you're
you,
so much more separated from people.
yeah, exactly. And once you've got uh, kids and stuff like that, it becomes basically impossible to make
Yeah.
new friends. So I can't imagine having the kind of good camaraderie-filled time that I have just playing D&D with you guys with anyone I've met in real life in like the past 5 years.
Yeah.
Because it's the chance of them being creatively minded or open to just maybe making themselves look a little bit silly, maybe not taking themselves seriously.
Yeah.
I think it's useful that anyone who's looking to play D&D is probably able to do that, and probably able to
Yeah.
think beyond what is currently in front of them, which is obviously a huge benefit if you're going to be imagining dragons and dungeons and whatnot.
Yeah. Especially if you get a group. I could probably loop Angus in here as well, but like, with Carl and I, we already know the other one's dumb as hell, so we don't bother
Yeah.
hiding anything.
Yeah, exactly. No, but
Yeah.
fuck, what was I gonna say?
You're going
I
to
don't know,
Oh
touch
man,
dummy.
I
What were
had,
you
I had
thinking?
such a good point. I had such a good point. That's such a good point.
Damn.
It's gone. It's going
Yeah,
further
look at
away
me.
now. It's gone. It's going around the corner. It's gone.
Okay, I'll give you a
Flew back
second
to
to think of
Wales.
it.
It flew back to Wales. It's gone.
Bye. Have a good time. But yeah, we were talking earlier about like social anxiety and how D&D can help with that. Um, a lot. I've run in quite a lot of circles where like the person's like physical body is holding them back in some way, or they
Hmm.
wanted to be like overly bombastic, but maybe they have like an injury that doesn't let them do that. But when you're doing like in voice stuff, you can let your inner self out, and you don't have to be held back by your
Mhm.
meat cage. Um, so a lot of people find it a lot more
Meat
easier to you know be bombastic, be
Yeah,
Yeah.
I
wholly
remember what I
honest.
was gonna say as well.
Okay, shoot.
The basically like you're being vulnerable, right, in front of people because
Yeah.
you're being silly, you're being funny, you're doing a voice like you're doing like in person, especially if you're playing in person, like you're doing faces, you're
Mm.
pretending to be this other person. It's like someone looks at you that doesn't know you. Like other
Yeah.
people would you think like, oh, I don't want to be seen like this. Like this is embarrassing, right? But no, like
Mhm.
if you're able to do that in front of people and then they do it back to you, it's like instantly you get this like connection
Yeah.
where you just kind of like,
Yeah, you're like
yeah,
co-conspirators.
like it, yeah. And it suddenly becomes like it's a little bit of a bond thing, you know, like
Yeah. It's like a
because you're
secret
both feeling
language between
silly.
friends.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Because like it's the worst thing if you're like, you know, if you're feeling silly and then someone just like, okay, right, cool, okay, you know, they just look
You'll
at
be
you
like,
weird.
"Oh, you're not fun. Bye."
Yeah, oh
Yeah.
yeah, great. But in D&D, it's literally it's about that. Like
Yeah.
you're
It's
literally
about
like,
having fun.
especially
feeding off each other being silly and stuff. So
Yeah.
especially if you're quite
yeah,
serious in real life. It's like Desmond says, around people who can kind of explore the areas of themselves that they may not be able to in their day to day.
Mhm.
yeah, yeah.
So if you're quite a
vulnerability,
serious,
right? Like
dry person, you don't really want to risk the current position you have with your friends or your co-workers or whatever by saying,
Yeah.
"Oh yeah, I pretend to be a goblin on the weekends and run around looting villages." Um,
That sounds fucking awesome.
it's just what we get up to around these parts.
Yeah.
So yeah, it gives you that kind of outlet. One of the things that I think is pretty cool is near me there's a group that does D&D sessions in person, but they do a load of stuff with the veteran community because we have like a support thing up
nice.
in North Staffordshire,
Hell yeah.
and they seem to have quite a high demand for these sessions. So you think these are usually quite professional people who've been in the armed
Mhm.
forces, but it
Mhm.
seems to be really successful.
Yeah.
That kind of giving people an
Mhm.
opportunity to try being something that
To
they
be
find
wholly
interesting.
free. Like
Yeah.
I find all these there's a
Yeah.
lot of social
It is
interactions,
freeing.
and I imagine definitely in the military. Well, like you have to abide
Mhm.
by all these societal rules
Mm,
and roles, and you got to kind of like play a part. But
yeah.
like, I, I'll admit I don't know all that many military people, but I know plenty of people in the LGBT plus community. Well, they have to basically uh play like the day to day is kind of acting as like a straight hetero person.
Mm.
Um, and then like when they get to play D&D, they get to like shed all those rules. And half the time, if you're playing a character, I don't know about everyone else, but I kind of have to like put myself aside, and then if I'm stepping into a character, I'm no longer playing by all those rules that somebody has to play by in real
Yeah.
life. And then so many of those blockers that you have like ingrained into you,
Mm,
like instinctually, if you're being somebody else, it can be quite freeing from all those blockers,
Yeah.
even those ones you
Yeah.
don't have any control over anymore because they're so ingrained
you
in you.
you can suddenly just insult an orc and not feel bad about it, you know?
Yeah,
yeah. One of the things that I found really difficult is being loud, like being able to be loud.
Yeah.
yeah,
Because
Yeah.
when you're young, it's like, no, don't be loud. There's no need to shout. But then like, I had a lot of fun last session playing Brick, the devil, and putting on the really snarly, silly voice.
hell yeah.
I did think at one point, like, I know my neighbors can't hear me because they're old and deaf, and we live in old brick
And dead.
buildings. They're tied up in the basement, so it's fine. But if basically anyone I knew outside of my family were here, I wouldn't have done the voice. Like aside from my wife, like even if some of my good friends were here, it would have just been so awkward to do that kind of thing.
Yeah,
But yeah, you feel comfortable doing it in D&D.
Mhm.
So I suppose what I'm saying is that it doesn't really matter what kind of person you are. You can explore whatever you
Yeah.
want to explore in
Yeah,
D&D.
exactly. You
That
can be a shy
so
person.
many,
You can just suddenly
yeah,
pretend to be confident, you know? Like
yeah,
pretend.
yeah, and there is an element of
Like
that kind of fake it till you make it. If you
yeah.
play a confident character, then maybe you'll
You're like, well,
you know,
maybe I
pick
can
up
be
on
confident, you
some
know?
tips.
Like
Hmm.
Honestly, that's what I've done. Like before I played D&D, I was like, I was not social whatsoever, and D&D kind of
Mm.
got me out of a rut, honestly,
Yeah.
because I sort of like. Plus, I started playing with. I remember after uni, I started playing with my real life friends, and back then I was feeling very like sort of down and lonely and all that. And honestly, like that, I was looking forward to it. It was once a week, and it was like the best night of the week. Like I was without a job for like a year, and it was literally it brought me closer to all my friends that I lost, like kind of drifted slightly away from after school, right? And we all
Yeah.
got back together, and once a week we were like a team, like we were again like having
Yeah.
loads of fun together again, and like
It's
since
just
then
being
we
human
just
with each other.
exactly. You just suddenly after that we just started hanging out more again, like
Mm.
just doing things together again. Ever since
Hell
then,
yeah.
it's like best friends still again. Like
Hell yeah.
it
Yeah.
brings people together. Like it really does.
I think even
Right.
within our group, like I'm constantly, if something interesting happens, I'll put it on the Discord. And like it might be a while before anyone responds because we've all got our own things. But it's nice to like if you have good news or something interesting is only good if you've got someone to tell it to. Is something that I found, and as you, I don't know, maybe it's age or maybe it's just settling down. You lose touch with people, etc., etc., and it can be difficult to think who will be happy to hear this good news for me,
Yeah.
in a
Mhm.
non-superficial way. And
Yeah.
people who you spend 3-4 hours a week creating something with, I always think it must be like, I mean, you guys are musical, and I'm unfortunately not. I think it must be like being in a band or part of some creative project, because okay,
Like
you're there to
D&D.
do
Yeah.
one specific thing, but you're you all share attributes and work towards a common purpose. So when something good happens for one of you, then it's like, okay, that's nice to hear. And
Yeah.
equally, if something bad happens to someone in the group, then you feel a sense of genuine.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't like that because I want the people that
Yeah.
I'm spending time with to be happy and
Of
prosperous.
course, right?
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting.
It's
So that kind
probably one of the reasons D&D exploded so much over the past couple of years. Like even just
Mm,
forgetting lockdown and like actual physical separation. Um,
mm,
with the increase of the internet, I'll just say for me, it's been nothing but a good thing, really, because my
yeah.
family was moving around so much. It was like the only way I could stay in contact with people for more than like a year.
yeah,
So it can be quite helpful, but it can also be quite isolating for a lot of people.
Mm.
Uh, and
Mm,
a good amount of people are just like touch starved now, and they don't have that kind of social interaction. But the
yeah.
internet can
Yeah.
both give that and kind of make it harder.
Yeah.
But
I mean, it's like that.
so
It's like that
D&D
with
forces it.
any sort of club, right? Like it's why people go, uh,
To like pubs
join,
and whatnot. Yeah.
pubs or join a chess club or a dancing class or
Mm.
improv class or whatever. That's why you play
I want
D&D.
an
It's
improv
because
class so much.
it's so you see some people and do something once a week or something,
Mhm.
and then eventually you develop relations with people.
Yeah.
So
Like
it helps you when you're older a little bit. Because in school, when you're younger, you see people in school every day, right? You got your
Yeah, you gotta
friends. Yeah, like you got friends and you hang out outside of school and stuff, and it's all great. And then as you grow up, it's sort of like maybe in a workplace you got some friends, but that's your
yeah, even
workplace.
then, most of the time you're looking. So like,
Mm.
Exactly. You got things to worry about, right?
mhm.
So it's good to have like a little hobby. D is just like a really good one.
Yeah, D&D creates another like there's some social term I'm forgetting, but basically like a meeting spot, like back decades ago at this point. But you would have like you'd have your pubs, but you'd also have like the mall that people can meet at, or like
Mm.
parks were far more populated. Basically, you would have all these different meeting spots, but those have started to dwindle over the
Yeah.
you know over recent times. And D&D creates a
Yeah.
new spot that people can meet.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
in our case, you guys are relatively close together still, in comparison to me.
Yeah.
But I'm on the other side of the goddamn globe. But I get to go
Yes,
to this
yeah.
communal meeting spot with you two, and it's quite lovely.
Yeah. It's
Yeah,
good. It's good.
the obviously being able to like the zero chance whatsoever that I ever would have met Deslin.
Oh,
And like
absolutely.
like the Angus, I mean, maybe I would have crossed paths at some point 20 years down the line with Carl, but I think it's probably best
The
from
darkest
the
timeline. You're just standing over him with a bat.
Where's my
the
cobalt
Great
sandwich?
send their regards. What does that mean?
Where's my cobalt sandwich? You're like, what?
But the D&D's more or less can be played for free. Like there's no
Yeah.
real
Mhm.
investment required in terms of
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
we use Roll20 and we stream it, and that obviously requires technology and stuff. But most people have the internet.
Yeah.
Mm.
All you really need is like fucking a couple of moments with each other. Ideally, at least 30 minutes, but
Yeah.
all you need is time and
a bit
company.
of time, which
It's,
lots of
it's
people
very
have.
doable.
I've even heard of people doing
accessible.
like paper written sessions. So
Yeah, there's a thing called West March as well. It's
Yeah.
basically like
Yeah.
like text RP, and then you could respond whenever you
Yeah.
can, really. But that's how a
Yeah.
lot of people RP,
Mm.
especially if they're socially anxious to use the voices and all
really
that.
really interesting.
Mm.
Yeah,
I remember hearing
D&D
about
is
it.
good, and yeah.
Yeah. When I
that's
when I
basically
first
the
got
summary
into
of the last 2 hours is just D&D good. Play D&D.
Hell
Watch us
yeah.
play D&D when you're not playing D&D.
Yeah, ideally play it yourself at some point. That's something I always champion.
give it
After you.
give it a try.
Hell yeah.
Give it a good old try.
I'm gonna go wee real quick. BRB.
Yeah. I don't think there's a huge amount more before I get sleepy today.
Yeah, same.
Yeah, because you're an hour ahead, aren't you? Yeah. So
Yeah.
'cause basically unrelated to D&D, but Poland's on the same time zone as France, then.
Yeah, rest of Europe basically. Yeah, like rest of
Oh, okay. I
yeah.
assumed it was like one
Germany,
further
France,
along.
Spain. Yeah.
Huh.
Plus one from UK.
Mm.
It's from Poland onwards, like Ukraine and
Oh, okay.
Belarus and
Right,
all
that's
that.
kind of
That's plus
the
2.
demarcation zone.
Yeah,
cool.
that's plus 2 after that.
So
Mm.
we'll kind of summarize up when Desmond gets back. But the campaign so far, the Axis Adventures, how are you finding it?
Oh, I like it. I like it. I love the setting as well. It's interesting because I tell you what, like, I've always been a fan of like just that. Like, it sounds almost boring when you say it like that, but just vanilla fantasy, just like I always just like it. Like I just feel at home in it, like it just feels like, Middle Earth or just like Gondor, Rohan,
Yeah,
like
old school.
that Western style, like bog standard fantasy thing. Like I just love the vibe of it. Like it always makes me feel good.
Yeah,
And,
and it's a bit like cliche, but cliches are
yeah,
important
it's
because
cliche. Yeah,
Yeah,
they're
yeah.
easy to pull from. They're easy to build upon. They're
Yeah.
like a fucking brick, and you could build a lot of shit on a solid object like a brick.
Yeah, exactly. It's familiar, right? Like it's just like so familiar thing. Like there's nothing wrong with going crazy. I love crazy, but like I always like to sort of come back to that home bit. It's kind of it feels right to me, and like I feel like we sort of started in that sort of area again, and it's good. Like I like it.
Yeah.
Because I'll
The-
tell you what, with the Horizon campaign, the floating city was very interesting, but after one act, we kind of went back to the continent, and it was
Yeah.
like, yes, this is like I like that. Like it's we sort of brought it back to like land and a bit more fancy.
Mm.
Like it's weird. It's probably just like personal preference for me. Probably not everyone feels like that, but it's just a thing that I enjoy. Like I'm the kind of person
Good,
that
yeah.
like. I don't know if any of you heard or played the Pillars of Eternity games, but
Yeah.
the first
so.
one is very sort of standard fantasy thing, and then the second one's very sort of crazy Renaissance, piratey, archipelago, all sorts of things, right?
Mm.
And the second one's a better game. It's way better built, but honestly, the setting, I just loved it in the first one. It was so like, it was just like there was magic to it. It just gets me, you know.
Yeah.
Something about it makes me feel a certain thing.
It's like a
Yeah.
familiar song.
Yeah, exactly. It's like the Hobbit theme tune, you know?
Oh yeah.
Like it's that. It's just
The Hobbit
yeah.
theme tune. Can you help me get that thing from the shelf?
Oh, poor Hobbit. Yeah. So I, just while you were doing your weeing, Desmond, I was
Mhm.
asking Carl what he thinks of the campaign, that we're currently doing so far, how it's going. Any thoughts before we conclude for the evening?
What type of thoughts?
What you think of it as well?
Yeah. What do you think? What do you like?
Well,
What do you not like?
I've been quite enjoying it so far. You've mentioned that we've spent like multiple weeks in one town, but I mean that was still pretty like good D&D pace in my experience at least.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, I've done worse.
I I like the fact that we don't get too bogged down in the weeds, but we do venture into them every now and then.
Yeah.
Like pace is really important to me in a D&D game.
Yeah.
So I think we've been
Yeah.
continuing a good solid pace.
Yeah.
And yeah, it just feels like the beginning of like an RPG, or in this case a a tabletop RPG.
Yeah.
But like
Yeah.
but like the beginning of RPGs are always my favorite. Like the first like 5 levels, or like
Mm.
the beginning of games like Skyrim or
Course.
whatnot. It's like the open world
Yeah.
road of possibility. I love having
Yeah.
all that in front of us, and like, where do we go? How do we do? So I'm loving it so far. I like the characters. I like the the whole like these 3 type of adventurers existed in the real world, so let's create a show on that angle. Uh yeah, I don't know. I could talk for quite a while, depending on how much you want me to talk about.
Mm.
Did we just
Uh,
talk for 3 hours?
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
well,
It happens.
yeah. We're on stream for 2 and a bit, but we were talking for quite a while I was trying to
Mm.
fix stuff before then. That's one thing in particular that I've noticed, is how absurdly quickly time can go when you're
I know.
doing a DM session. Because if you say to someone, sit there for 3 hours, like even watching a film, I get bored
Mhm.
halfway through a film,
Yeah, yeah,
and I want
yeah.
to walk around or do something.
Yeah,
But you can
you're so
comfortably
much more
spend,
involved in D&D.
Mhm.
yeah, and you don't even really
I
notice
mean,
it.
same with video games, though, right? Like 3 hours can fly by easily
I
for me.
can't
Like,
play for more
Mhm.
than like 30-40 minutes nowadays.
really, it depends what game to me, I guess. But
Yeah, and nothing that I've played in the last few years has kept my attention for very long.
yeah, it hasn't gotten harder for me as well. To be fair, I think as you get
I,
older, it's a bit.
Yeah, but I think it's because
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. As you get a bit older, you maybe start to crave the social side of things a bit more.
Yeah.
Whereas when you're
Yeah.
young, you can, like, I remember just
You got plenty
spending
of that.
all
Yeah.
my time playing like Halo 3,
Yeah. Oh yeah.
and then World of Warcraft when I got into that. Like, I have some weirdly good memories of being at uni and meant to be studying and stuff, but just playing WoW until the sun came up and listening to
Yeah.
Weezer. and it is like such a
Oh, man.
unpleasant way to
Sweet
live
how
your
that
life
works.
in,
Yeah.
in hindsight, but really good memories. Oh yeah,
Yeah.
that nice early morning,
Oh,
sunrise kind of light coming through.
you
Yeah.
know what? I
And you
miss
Like
that
realize,
the air's
too.
really
I miss that
crisp.
too.
Yeah.
yeah,
It's
I've
so
been
Done
good.
that in
doing
years.
the same thing for the last 10 hours. And I'm tired, but I'm enjoying it, so I'm
No,
going to keep doing it.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
you know what?
yeah.
Go
Call.
on, go on, go on.
Okay. Well,
You go.
with like WoW and like other MMOs, the social aspect can is like the main appeal for at least for me in a lot of those games.
Mm.
I love the story of certain games. Warcraft is a bit dog turkey, but um, dog turkey, just bad, and like you don't want to think
Okay.
about it.
Yeah, I don't know as well. I
Right.
think about Doctor.
Dog turkey.
Shitty is the it's the more
Yeah, yeah.
Right. Okay.
general term. But like the story in MMOs can be really good, but like the social aspect of just like connecting with somebody, uh, like or just connecting with people like people you know have connected with.
Mm.
I was able to move to Texas at one point because of a guild member that my brother knew. Um, so I was able to just go explore Texas because my brother was friends with somebody in Texas because of
Right.
Warcraft. Like there's so many crazy connections you can make with MMOs in particular, but
Mm.
like yeah, the whole like community aspect in MMOs, I think a lot of people crave, and it can be really good.
Mm.
Yeah, I think with MMOs, like I remember them being really social, but then last one I played, it was like they seem to have got rid of a lot of the social stuff,
Yeah,
which
no,
I
yeah.
guess is like a
I've never really.
safety type
Mm.
thing.
I never got into MMOs that much, but yeah, I've played it like I've played more MMOs like more recently, and I found it like they don't have what I used to hear about MMOs having,
Yeah.
that community thing. Like I don't see that much anymore.
Mm.
I think
Yeah,
probably unless you
it's
know people, it kind of felt like a single player game.
Yeah,
That
it's
yeah,
sort
a
of
lot of them
defined
there
it.
were other
can.
people there, but you didn't really feel like you were attached to them.
Yeah,
Well,
they
that's
Um,
just
where you bring
designed it
some
a
of
different
your
way, right?
D&D skills in, and then you try to I say D&D skills, and then you try to be sociable and you know,
Mm.
and make
get in with
yeah.
these different groups. It's a bit more like you know, school growing up where you weren't necessarily introduced, but you're in the same area, so
Mm.
like it's
You like, see
easier
the same
to
people.
yeah, it's easier to like make friends and whatnot, like a hell of a lot easier than single player games, as you could probably imagine. Uh,
I just make friends with NPCs. They're always
yeah.
nice to me. Always happy to see them.
But I guess my point here being that the community aspects are all there. You just kind of have to
Mm.
like open the door and then go into the building where the community aspects are.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's kind of like
Mm.
walking down the street.
Mm.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Yeah. I remember I was really into Minecraft at one point, like
Mm.
absurdly into it when it
Who
first
wasn't?
like 2012. This is 2011, 2012, but not long after it came out. And I started playing on a server and got to really know the people there, and then became friends in real life with one of the people, and you know, on quite good terms. And it's like there's no way you could possibly meet that person, and it's the same in D&D.
Mhm.
As I say, I never ever would have met Desmond.
Mm.
Right, and then you feel that you know the person quite well. So Angus in particular, maybe it's because we both got kids, but I feel a sense of I feel like I kind of know Angus as
Mm.
a person who I'm aware of
It's a
existing
guy. Yeah.
in a
Yeah.
real sense,
Yeah.
not just in a oh yeah I know so and so and so and so, but in a because obviously anyone who's listening won't know. Angus has done lots of stuff with his property. So he's like built pig pens and stuff, and so you can see someone's life developing, and you're kind of watching along and listening along, and then catching up every week and say, oh, how's that going? So I mean, anyone who listens to this will probably think, well, yeah, that's just basic human interaction.
Yeah.
But that's something that's harder and harder nowadays. So
but yeah, exactly. The things that, yeah, you might perform them. You may carry out the acts of being social when you speak to people, when you engage with them. But when it's in a completely virtual environment, it becomes possible to properly look back. Because theoretically, if I could completely never speak to any of you guys again tomorrow, because all
Yeah.
I'd have to do is just leave the Discord group, and then ignore messages. You can't do that with your co-workers or your people at school or anything else. So it's very much a relationship based on wanting to be involved, which I think
Yeah.
I think this is what Desmond was saying earlier with the whole school analogy, that makes it so much more rewarding.
Mhm.
And in conclusion, again for the third time, I think D&D is a universal net benefit. I feel
Yeah.
is my conclusion.
Yeah.
Even if I wanted to not play D&D ever again, I still wouldn't want to leave the Discord, because it's like
Mhm.
I'd lose contact, and it's like I don't
Yeah.
like if I knew you guys in person, if like I lived on the same street as you, then yeah, I'd have no problem leaving the Discord. But because I don't, it's like I don't want to,
Yeah.
like I miss you guys.
This is gonna sound like a
Uh,
really weird statement, but who the fuck lives on the same street as another person?
Um,
I think everyone knows exactly what I mean
yeah.
when I say that. Like, fucking
Well,
hell.
I live in the same town as people, small
Yeah.
town, a couple
Yeah.
streets away.
Like
You'll
physically they're
find
close by, but you might see them once every like 3 weeks if you happen to leave for work
Yeah.
at the same time. Like,
Yeah.
what kind of weird American world are you living in? People talk to their neighbors. People wave and have a chat over the fence and gossip and all that other useful stuff.
yeah, this
Depends
might
when
be
I listen
my like working graveyard for years kind of
Oh right, yeah.
into reality.
to
But also I don't know. So a lot of people are quite like protective of their shit. Well, like there's
Yeah.
there's the whole like you don't go on another person's yard or like up to the door ideally
it sounds
just in case they're
yeah,
particularly ornery and armed. Like
Just landmines everywhere.
yeah.
Um,
It
well,
sounds a little bit like here in Poland, to be honest. Like it's a little bit like that, I think.
I think it's the same in England. It's just we're not allowed firearms to do anything about it. Like,
Yeah, yeah,
when I hear
good.
someone come on my drive, I'm like, "Who are you? What are you doing here? Go away!
yeah.
Yeah.
This is a local house for local people."
I don't
No,
mean
I've
to
got
make
my back.
America sound like a hellhole, but like it's one of the first things you're taught as a child is to not fuck with other people's stuff.
It's a pretty good
Mhm.
lesson to learn.
Yes,
Yeah.
but like
In a country where there's
especially
guns.
yeah, and especially out in the like more rural parts of the country. Like
Mm.
it's a safety thing. Like it's not like
Yeah.
to be nice or to be sociable.
Yeah.
It's just like don't mess with that person. He might be a wackadoo with a gun. And yeah, we teach children to fear for their lives and to not fuck with other people's shit.
Well, we have the exact same thing. It's just it's knives instead of guns. So
Yeah,
Mhm.
but like if
kids everywhere are being terrified into leaving their neighbors alone.
yeah, I guess which is a good thing, maybe. I don't know.
Eh?
But
It's knives, fists, and broken
I
balls.
don't know. I could rant about
Yeah,
guns in this country for quite a while.
let's avoid
Yeah.
the
Yeah,
ranting.
Yeah.
That's
Um,
way better than you.
Yeah, but
Um,
if you do
Wow.
ever feel the need to impine on your neighbour's property rights, then D&D is a nice, safe environment in which you can do it.
Yes.
Yeah,
and
and
You could
we've
pretend
already
like
said
to do it.
I've already said this, but D&D is great, and you get to like explore parts of yourself because you don't have to deal with those societal things that you deal with to stay safe. Like it is inherently a safe environment because it's improv, it's acting basically.
And again, you just clip Deslin saying you get to explore the parts of yourself that society says you shouldn't explore.
Yeah,
Uh,
exactly.
no one can arrest you for doing what you want to do in D&D.
To your own
Um,
body. I mean, to
yeah.
your own...
You
I know
explore
the
yourself as
sexual
much as
angle
you
on
want.
this. I know the sexual angle, and I know what you guys are on about, but I just it could be like dangerous to be part of the LGBT community, especially in some like more conservative parts of the country. So like being able to explore those parts of yourself is really healthy, really good. And D&D allows people to do that.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Well, like if you do it in real life, you might get fucking beaten, or hopefully not to death.
It's tempting to make some commentary on the current World Cup situation. But
Yes, sports. Let's talk about literally anything
No,
else.
no.
Oh god.
well, that's
I
basically
need
the
to
same
go bed.
thing. Yeah, me too. I was just trying to remember what was the
Stay safe,
overtly
people.
sexual innuendo that was in the last campaign, and the NPC just didn't get it.
What was that to me?
In the last session, I'm pretty sure it was you, Deslin, was saying some pretty raunchy stuff, and the NPC in question was just being completely oblivious to it, and I couldn't remember.
That sounds like me, especially because the last couple of sessions I've been really low on sleep. So I was probably just like stream of consciousing some of it. I don't remember. If you remember, tell me.
I'll take it under the highlights. But yeah, Carl needs sleep so he can properly learn about all the different kinds of paint to paint cars with and why you need them.
Not how to do it, but
No,
how.
just why you need it.
No. I'll look
Yeah.
at people doing it so I can know more about how they do it.
Yeah.
Not
He's
do it.
supervising.
Yeah.
If you get cornered, you can at least bullshit your way through the process.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
that's like 10/5 of having a job anyway. Right, cool. Well, we're coming up to 2.5 hours. So thank you for joining me and discussing D&D and everything else, and only going on a few slightly tangential rants, Deslin.
Yeah. I wasn't responsible for all of them. But yeah, this is actually far more D&D like focused than I thought this conversation was going to be.
Yeah.
You started mentioning sports. I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah, I thought we'd keep it with D&D until we see if
Okay.
Angus can join in the next one. But yeah, good way to keep the stream count up. So thank you both, and have a lovely week. And I'll probably be streaming on the Friday, either some more Half-Life or something else. I don't know what this computer can run.
Hopefully
so-
next Tuesday we'll play.
Yes, all being well, we'll pick up
Hopefully.
and find out what the party thinks of the devilish goings on of the previous session. So have a wonderful night, everyone, and thank you. And I don't know how to stop the stream.
Just take care, wave.
Just